Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of our winter workshop. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Councilman Pickett?
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Martin?
Here, ma'am.
Councilman Bana?
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Mayor Carballo?
Here, ma'am.
And let the record reflect that Councilwoman Morgan is not present.
Please stand for the pledge. Do we have anyone who would like to speak at Public to be heard? Seeing no one, I'll close Public to be heard. We're going to start our morning off with our Public Works Department High Impact Plan. Good morning, Colt.
Good morning. Glad to be back here again and presenting our high impact plan for Public Works. I will try and make this quick so that we can try and get back on schedule and get through a lot of important items on the agenda today. And as you can imagine, with how Public Works was very heavily involved yesterday, you've heard a lot of these updates. So again, I'll just try and summarize and go over it quickly. There we go. All right. So I'm not going to obviously read this word for word and verbatim. You all have had it, and we can digest and discuss and have questions, but I got some major key points that I want to go over. That your Public Works Department truly works on the city's 7 strategic plans and goals on a daily basis, reoccurring. We can name off how we work on every single one of them, but obviously, first and foremost would be high quality infrastructure, which also leads into safe, clean, and beautiful. And then it also ties into the strategic growth for a resilient future and high-performing government organization. And part of how we're going to be meeting these, and as you heard yesterday, we do have the traffic signal preemption that we are going to actively get installed and completed as soon as humanly possible. As was mentioned, the major corridors have been coordinated with the fire district, and they like the approach and corridors that we're going to be attacking first. And that coordination will continue throughout installation and inspection and getting them implemented throughout every traffic signal in the city. As kind of another appetizer that was given yesterday, we are doing traffic signal coordination improvements. We're going to be working with our consultants. As referenced, the next corridors that we're going to be looking at is Olive Village Parkway, Crosstown Parkway, and Gatlin Boulevard to see if we can't help relieve some congestion by doing some better timing throughout the entire day instead of just peak hour timing and or adaptive signals when the adaptive signals may not work efficiently during peak demands.
Colt, do we already have it on Becker?
Yes, we did the time of day signal coordination where that is, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have it so 5 different signal coordinations implement throughout the day depending on the traffic that the consultant saw.
Okay.
And when that happens, this consultant literally sits down and has access to our traffic signals and cameras and is literally counting the traffic and cars to try and best determine the signal coordination and timing. From there, we've seen a lot of demand for the residential driveway replacement loan program, so we're looking forward to keeping that going. It's important that we can try and keep this going because even though the residential driveways are the responsibilities of the homeowners, it is critical to make sure that we have proper drainage conveyance for the entirety of the city. We also had the major Okamic drainage improvement projects, and we also heard the direction yesterday given, so we have started working with the procurement department project team to find ways to either maybe change the type of design process that we're going through or work on phasing programs to get actions and items moving quicker and faster. Then we also want to look at doing some other, what I called yesterday, silent wins, where we talked about the Becker Road signal coordination. Mr. Lewis Johnson brought a nice, innovative way of geotube bank stabilization. And we were able to do this on the Sagamore Waterway just east of Barroso Boulevard. And essentially what that is they take a geotube fabric, and we had spoil areas and sedimentation built up where you could see it above the water every day. They're able to dredge that material, put it into the geotubing, and reestablish the canal banks and reinforce it. It was an extremely efficient process. We were able to get in and out of there. No one hardly even knew we were doing it, and it was an efficient and cheap process. So we're going to keep looking for areas where we can do that and try and strive to make the dollars work for as much as we can everywhere. Obviously, we have lots of development coming on, so our coordination is going to be nonstop with P&Z as it has been and will continue to be, to make sure these developers are building the roadways are obligated, and obviously making sure we're following the direction given yesterday with the new policies and making sure the east-west connections stay in place. Another one that I know is top of mind for a lot of residents and staff and pretty much everybody for the whole community is discovering community traffic signal. We are on schedule. FPL Power is already in place, ready to go. So we are doing everything we can to make that happen sooner. Completion is scheduled for April, but again, we're going to do what we can to make it happen sooner. Major critical items is waiting on the mast arms to be delivered. Our contractor is ready to go, that when they're delivered, they're going to be out there installing them ASAP. Sorry. Another major intersection, St. Lucie West and Peacock. We know it's under construction right now. We are working and diligently coordinating with the contractor to get this moving and staying moving. They are aware of spring training coming up and the restrictions on the MOT and making sure that that is open the entire time. Also aware that PD has a nice operation where they help direct traffic, so that coordination keeps going and we're going to get that completed as soon as possible. Another major aspect that we're going to be finalizing is the next 10-year sidewalk master plan. We're doing the coordination and homework with all the schools, the neighborhoods, the residents, and trying to figure out, and we heard the suggestion on Sandpiper area, and that will definitely be in there, one of the top priorities in the sidewalk master plan, to get those missing pieces taken care of. Sorry, still getting over head cold here. With all these CIP projects you saw yesterday, we've been diligently looking at project management software, and that is needed for many reasons: to help staff out with efficiencies, help out with communications, and to help out with reporting. So we were hoping to get to a time where we can make a decision, pull the trigger on getting that project management software. A key piece of that project management software is making sure it works with our project tracker, and that way the information can still keep filtering up. Another key aspect of it is, last year you gave us direction, and we greatly appreciate it, to implement an asset management program called OpenGov. We need to make sure this project management software will work with that program. And so we're actually meeting with Caroline and some of the other groups to look at implementing this and getting that process going.
Well, is that an external software, or is that something that we are going to do in-house with IT?
Right now, with the timing, we're looking at external software. The leading candidate, with all the due diligence we've been doing, is actually an OpenGov platform, which there's many reasons why we're considering that one. Usability, and also the user limits, where a lot of them have yet to buy so many user licenses. With this platform, it is an unlimited user license. Therefore, we can start having our CEIs and consultants working on that platform alongside of us to maybe help us streamline the communication, project deliverables, maybe reduce some emails, because I know myself, I get 100 plus. I know a lot of our project managers, 100 plus a day. It's hard to keep up with that. So any ways we can try and streamline this will greatly increase efficiency for us. Now, another software that we're going to be looking at is refocusing on our public works permitting processes and trying to streamline that. So we're going to be re-engaging IT, seeing if we can get the Fusion platform up and running, or if we have to, look at out-of-the-box permitting programs. Some of the biggest issues, and I don't want to say issues, but some of the biggest demand that we have right now is our right-of-way permits. They have increased significantly. We used to get 300 or 400 a year. We're getting well above that. I mean, we have certain consultants that have 200, 300 permits alone, just themselves, for these fiber connections.
Wow.
All right, another fun aspect that we're going to do to try and help out with efficiencies is finalize the Public Works review fee study that has been underway with the Finance Department, and bringing that to you shortly. And that'll also tie in with how we had the joint meeting with St. Lucie County and discussed the right-of-way permit, where currently it's a free permit. And so there's no resources to help provide for all the staffing. That right-of-way permit will be part of this, but it's important to look at these because they have not been updated since 2012. And we know costs of everything have skyrocketed since then. And as of now, the fees that we have are not even covering half of the costs that it takes to review, inspect, and permit projects in the city. Another big aspect that we are going to be doing, and this is tied to, we know revenue streams are short. We got to be fiscally smart and constrained. So we're going to do another deep dive into our level of service. And I'm talking level of service for every aspect that Public Works does. That's our 1 PSL calls, our timelines for that, our swale cleanings, our repaving operations. This has not honestly had a deep dive since 2018. So it's time to get moving on that again. That'll help provide guidance to city manager's office, us, and also help realign programs. So by that, we're going to be revisiting our operation and maintenance program. So we know we had the paving program that is very successful and is very communicative and upfront. We want to do that with all of our aspects of Public Works. If we don't give you the information, how can you know what we are and are not doing? And that also directly ties into our asset management OpenGov software that I briefly mentioned. That company, I got to give them some props. It was a huge hurdle. It normally takes years to get to the baseline that we're at. They got it done in 9 months. But now comes the hard work. We got to make sure the staff buys in, uses this. That will directly tie into the level of service. A lot of these key performance indicators, with this kind of a platform, once we get it truly up and running, it will give the real live day-to-day operations and where are we meeting these measures. Because right now, what we're doing is we're bringing it in, analyzing it on a monthly basis, and then printing out reports. This will allow it to happen up to date daily. Then, with reviewing all of our level of service, and always we have to review and analyze our staffing levels. As you see, we have a lot of work going ahead of us. I want to make sure that our staff is not burnt out. We have some of the most dedicated, capable, awesome staff. But if the capacity is too much, then there's going to be issues. So we definitely need to dive into that. One aspect we're looking at doing and exploring is we have some major projects coming up, OCAMIC. So as part of the CIP, can that help provide some project management that we would need to help really focus in on that? So those are some of the items that we're looking at. But we also have some more major ones that are even fun. April, we have APWA reaccreditation. And I'm happy to say we are in a much better shape than I can ever recall us being in.
Awesome.
And I'm not sure if she's here, but Ms. Valerie Delgado has really kept her eye on the ball with this. We haven't just been doing what we did in the past where it was like, oh, reaccreditation is coming up in 6 months. We've been focused on this for 2 years. It will happen. And then, most exciting thing, the Public Works groundbreaking for the building. That will be happening this year.
Hallelujah.
So with that, any questions you may have, always here.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Go ahead.
Cool, thank you for the presentation, and it's interesting because, of course, we're responsive to the public. So, safety is important, parks are important, but, traffic has always been important, but it's really risen to the top of the level where the public is engaging in that department. And, your track record has shown that we are more than trying to achieve what the public's expectations are. Couple of things. I do have a question, Kate. When we do with our high-impact plans as well as our full business plans for each department, is that on the website?
Our high-impact plans, actually, I don't believe even the high-impact plans are on the website. They really have been treated more as internal documents and planning documents. We at one point did have the full plans online, but in conversations, because we've just made them more internal planning documents.
And I don't know how you, and they're large, so I wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily want the full document in the sense, because it's better to be abbreviated. I think people won't appreciate the level. And, I mean, it's public record, they could always ask for it. But with the conversation that's occurring with the public in regards to the importance of local governance, the service level that's being provided, I do think that it might be time to figure out how to package something that would communicate. Oh, Caroline, go ahead.
Good morning, thank you.
Good morning.
When you mention abbreviated, Kate, as a reminder, we do have the abbreviated version in the budget book.
Yes.
The budget book is adopted. That is posted online. So as you're referring to transparency, communicating our performance, we do have the KPIs also in the budget book right following the abbreviated high-impact plan. So I wanted to remind Kate of that.
Absolutely. Ms. Sturgis is correct. I know with the high-impact plan, like what you're seeing today, it's not quite in the budget book because it's separated by fund in the budget book, so it's not as, I think, easy for the public, right, in some ways, because it's the fund difference. We consolidate for the winter workshop. But I think one solution could be is for every department's high-impact plan to be on their department webpage, because the high-impact plan, it's a public document, and that's something that maybe would be an additional resource in addition to the budget book. So it's reiterated a few different places, the information.
Yeah,
If that would be
absolutely.
amenable to the council.
I just think it's one of those, we have the ability to review this and have these conversations. But again, as this conversation about local government, how it serves the public, the value of the tax dollar, this isn't going to end after a ballot question. And we need to realize that. This is not going to end after a ballot question. We're going to continue to have the public push on what is their dollar going to, and then is there a value to that? And I know that there is, but we are going to actively have to pursue communicating how that value transitions into their daily life. Question for you, Colt, is the coordination of Public Works and other departments that you spoke to, when do you think that we will transition into that more streamlined process? I know you're meeting with Caroline, but what's your end date? What's your goal date to get transitioned?
Can I get some clarity on that? Are you talking about project management
Yes.
software? That I want to get started as soon as possible. The current proposal we have is a 4 to 5 month implementation timeframe once contract is executed. So ideally, by October, I want to have something robust in place and have staff trained up and ready to go with it.
Okay. And then, again, speaking the language of the times, I think that whenever we do these things, we also need to begin to equate savings. So for example, when you present this program, we need to start speaking in terms of how this equates to savings, but more importantly, how those savings transition to us keeping our FTEs low, and that would have also equate to those savings annually.
And
And
Madam
I
Vice Mayor, if I
smile
can.
because I think you have it, so go ahead.
Yes, Ms. Emily was very diligent on that, and the proposal that we shared with Caroline and the team, it gives a rate of return and how this translates into those savings. And one other avenue I want to mention briefly is with the city manager's office in Caroline, we have accelerated our coordination between the departments for CIP. We were meeting quarterly, now we're going to start meeting bi-weekly, relook at all of our reporting structures and efficiencies. The bi-weekly may not continue into the future, but as we get our new processes in line, it's going to be bi-weekly.
And I think too, it's recognizing that that's the first thing we need to talk about. Because that's, at the end of the day, when we're speaking to the public, and even in our council meetings, the first thing they want to hear is how it's saving them money, or more importantly, how efficient it is for their tax dollars. So it needs to be front of mind, I think, for anything that we talk about that's financially related, outside of policy stuff, for the public. And then I had something else on that, and I lost my train of thought. Give me one second. I don't remember now. Also, thinking about speaking the language that everyone is understanding right now. So for example, when you said that we're going to look at performance levels and level of service, I think we just call it what it is. It's a Public Works Department audit. People are relating with that word audit. It's, we audit our departments. This isn't something new. I mean, the public doesn't know this. You guys audit your departments annually. I've been talking about these high business plans, and I've been talking about the business plans the last couple months because I'm trying to explain to the public, we audit ourselves regularly.
Correct.
Especially annually with our strategic planning documents that extend into the departments that are required to do it annually as well. And we're doing it, I just think it's not in the verbiage that is kind of, it's the 6-7. Even our economy guy said 6-7. That's what people are saying. We need to relate with the public of what they're hearing and how that equates to what we're currently already doing, if that makes sense.
And Vice Mayor, I think those comments are very helpful to us as we think about continuing to, because this is, a tool we've used for a while, and we're trying to take a fresh look every year and see, is there a better way to communicate? So I think we can most definitely develop better approaches and get the message across, because there's so much rich work. One thing we did with department strategic planning workshops this year, as the mayor mentioned yesterday, not only is every department going through like human-centered design training and innovation training as they innovate, a lot of these ideas came from the departments kind of having that time to really focus and innovate together as a team. This year, we even asked every department, from your perspective, what is working in terms of the strategic plan and everything you do. Maybe the Office of Management and Budget has worked on every goal and telling us what's working well and what's a rose, thorn, bud. So we actually kind of had an organizational x-ray this year to be able to see how our systems even interconnect. So really going deeper with our design process as a team and seeing how our team can better align and work together. And we have some great insights we're going to be working on with the leadership team over the next few months.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if I can add on to that, in my opinion, the level of service and framing of that, it's not just for external communication. It's internal communication within the department as well, because level of service, someone has a stigma to it. And what I need to get across to our team is this is a good way to tell our story, get the information out there about what we're doing. It's not a negative thing. We got to be better at our internal communication with telling that as well as our external, because if we can adopt and get comfortable with internally, it'll help us out with the external.
Yeah, and I think you can. I think you could have an internal lingo because this is what we're comfortable in the government space of how we speak to each other. But then we have to also be cognizant of how people are also internalizing information. And, I think of even what you said about the human-centered design and innovations. What that is to me as a general citizen is streamlining. We're streamlining our organization. That speaks to the resident. If we start speaking of, like, they're going to be like, what is human-centered? And it is. Even I said, what is human-centered design? What is that, Kate? What does that mean? And I want to make sure that we're being relative to what they hear. So I think the internal stuff is important, but ensuring that when we speak about it, we're speaking to the external as well and how they're hearing information today. Especially after, some of the conversations we heard yesterday and how things are being explained and portrayed to the public as far as service to local government. I think it's really key. Thank you.
Anyone else have comments, questions? I think it was a great presentation. I'm really happy to hear about all the different efficiencies we're looking to go to streamline all the processes. It's a heavy lift on top of all the other things that you guys are already working on a daily basis. So, but I really do appreciate the fact that you're looking to do all these different efficiencies and streamline processes and get to a level where you're really comfortable with all the project management and all that. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
And I don't know if there's anyone more excited than you besides me for this Public Works building. I'm sure your entire team is, but having been here as long as I have and wanting that building to get done has just been a long wait, as we all know, and it's kind of like, how we celebrated for Crosstown and it was that at last? This is an even bigger, to me, even bigger at last. So looking forward to that. So can you just remind us of timeline?
Yes, so by the end of this month, we are going to be submitting the advertisement for construction. That would put us in around June to end of June for bringing to City Council for approval.
Yeah.
And then by the end of this calendar year, hopefully sooner, for the groundbreaking. It was
Great.
kind of fitting that you mentioned Crosstown because this is where it's going to be at now, is on Crosstown.
Right.
And with the building, we really listened to leadership in the Harvard Bloomberg Initiative, and we are doing everything we can to lead by example on how private development should work in the city.
Awesome. Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. BMX operations update. We're getting closer and closer.
There we go.
Oh, look at this. Woohoo.
The official unveiling.
All right.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, City
Morning.
Council, Mr. Manager, city staff, and the viewing public. My name is Brad Keene, Parks and Recreation Director. This is an exciting moment. We are going to stand before you this morning and present the latest update on our BMX all-wheel inclusive track that is currently under construction. There's a lot of exciting things that you'll hear this morning. Our agenda will focus on the facility highlights and our programming potential. We'll show you an organizational chart, proposed organizational chart with proposed scheduling, the proposed operation hours, potential revenue streams, proposed fee structures, proposed rental inventory, proposed point of sale and concession solutions, and construction and branding update. As you can see, it's not just the physical construction of a track coming out of the ground. There's a lot of things involved behind the scenes, anticipating what the operations are going to be like. And I'll be perfectly frank and honest with you, I knew nothing of how to run a BMX track when we first got into this. But one of the smartest things we did is we knew we needed somebody that knew the community, knew the BMX community, was well aware of track operations, had experience, and we were very, very fortunate, smart, but also very, very fortunate to advertise and bring on Mr. Todd Burdick as the BMX track manager. And with his experience, I think we're going to literally hit the ground running.
Awesome.
So our update this morning, we're going to remind you that we had a previous update to council in August of 2025, and whereby we provided an early look at the project and the potential avenues of operation. City Council provided us significant insight on the fees, operational models, and staffing. And our department is providing this presentation to provide key updates in these areas and more. And we're also going to give you a quick update on the agreement that we have and we are finalizing with USA BMX. So some of the facility highlights that, if you'll remember, PSL's BMX track will be the only one of its kind to offer scheduled and free public access. Most tracks that we have either visited, contacted for information, Todd's experience in his professional life, just about every track that we've come across does not necessarily have free access to the public. The public can access it, but it's usually with a charge or a membership, some type of fee. We have an all-inclusive destination. This facility will accommodate bikes, scooters, skateboards, inline skates, and electric RC cars on selected nights. It will have an all-wheel adaptive surface, which also provides for lower maintenance, leading to higher usability. And we'll have open access during non-sanctioned hours. By that I mean, yes, we are affiliated or will be affiliated with USA BMX, but outside of their scheduled practices and races, all those time slots on the calendar, we'll be able to program ourselves, in which we anticipate offering youth clinics, after-school programs, and even private rentals. And we're also very excited to inform the council that by virtue of the design of PSL's BMX track, we also have a track that meets the eligibility requirements for the United Cycling International organization. So that could be two either national or international groups that will have access to our facility. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Todd Burdick, and he will give you the specifics of our new track.
Hey. Good morning.
Good morning. I want to introduce myself again, Todd Burdick. I wanted to say thank you for letting me be here and present what is a truly exciting day for myself. I think this is a really exciting day for the city of Port St. Lucie, and also a really exciting day for the sport of BMX, because we are literally doing something that has never been done before. I want to thank my team, because I certainly have not done this by myself. There was a lot of work that went into preparing, getting things set up, finding the right people, so much stuff that's happened before I got here that has allowed me to literally step into what I consider to be a dream job for myself. This is a very surreal situation that I'm standing in this format to speak about BMX, and I'm telling you, it's a dream come true. So I really appreciate what everybody has done. I want to thank all of you guys for having the forethought and the vision and the open-mindedness to take on a project like this. You guys did a fantastic job in hiring what I feel is literally beyond the best track builder I've ever witnessed. The technology and the mind that he has is literally beyond anything I've ever seen before, and I've been around the sport a long time. So I want to really thank you for that, because I wouldn't be standing here if you guys hadn't done all that work. So let me start with that. Going into this, we were going to talk a little bit about the guiding goals that you guys set forth in the last meeting. One of those being the maximizing use by residents, and Brad touched on that with the all-wheels adaptive surface. That surface and the design type of the track is going to allow us to get far more users on the track and make it a very inclusive facility versus other BMX tracks that have in the past just been available to BMX racers. So that's a great thing. I do want to mention that because of this, we are a trailblazer. There will be some trial and error and some challenges to solve as we move forward. We're going to be setting precedents for tracks to come in the future, and I truly believe this is going to be an evolution of the sport, because this has never been done before. Lots of exciting possibilities. We did provide some open ride sessions that are not, like Brad mentioned, not necessarily normal to BMX tracks, providing more accessibility to the public and more accessibility to our citizens. We also are providing some free access within that, so that we can also promote, help accelerate the program, get more people involved. We're going to capitalize on that by the fact that we are more inclusive. And being that the potential revenue that we can make from the track is based upon the number of people using it, those types of features that we have built into the program will generally and definitely help accelerate that. We are making sure that we, through some extensive research and my experience, are making sure that we're aligned with the best national practices, the way that other tracks have operated, USA BMX operates, and then just experience through what I've done in the past, which has been involved with BMX. I also owned a skate park, so I'm very familiar with things that come along with that as well, and how to operate those. Thanks, Brad. Moving on, we did some extensive research. The team also did some research prior to me arriving, but we have had our eyes on, or I have worked at, all of these particular tracks, including our information that we've gotten from our builder with Action Sports Design, Mike McIntyre, who, like I said, great job on hiring this guy. He is, his extensive work in Action Sports Design of tracks, skate parks, has gone far beyond anything that I could have imagined. His roster of people that he knows, I looked in his phone contacts yesterday and was blown away by some of the people that he calls good friends that are in the industry. Very, very influential person, and I take his information greatly and also very appreciated. We also stopped at several other tracks, influential, what we consider some of the bigger tracks in the nation, to help research and understand and figure out ideas and make sure that everything we're doing aligns with what other tracks are doing, but also keeping in mind that we are a unique facility in that we are different and we're going to have to make some changes in those plans. Our organizational chart that we have created, I feel is created out of the need to best fit our unique facility. You can see that we have Brad there at the top, Kelly underneath Brad, and then myself, and then we have a track operator. We're looking at an assistant track operator, and then now this third position is a created position that is specifically for our track due to the necessity of having, for safety measures, for operational measures, creating this new position that will be a big part of how the track operates. And then also, lastly, our volunteer base. There's really no BMX track in the nation that operates without a decent level of volunteers. However, I am trying to staff our track so that we have less of a need for volunteers than other tracks. And one of the things that we're looking at doing that will be really cool and kind of just play into our whole being a trendsetter is that we're looking at doing 100% timing scoring, so that will eliminate upwards of 3 positions that we would need as volunteers and be able to do completely 100% digital scoring. That would put us the first track in the nation to do so. And I'm hoping to incorporate, and I have been pricing some digital info boards that we would be able to take our finishes and put them right on the board in real time right after the races, which is not anything that's been done before. So that's exciting. And I've spoken with USA BMX. They're supportive of that as well. And like I said, would be nice because it will eliminate a few needed volunteer positions that we have weekly at the track. Proposed operations schedule, we're looking at 7 days a week. Mondays 12 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday 9 to 9, and Sunday 12 to 7. Providing a schedule that represents best national practices. It does allow for our typical USA BMX schedule. Also some maximum usage, some free accessibility, will allow us time for proper maintenance, which there won't be a lot due to the surface of the track, but just facility maintenance in general. And then also capitalizing on all the potential revenue that could be made by using the track. Oh, yes, and then also we have the synthetic grass, so there won't be any mowing that has to go on, which I am greatly happy to hear about that. If anybody knows about where I came from, there was lots of grass. So the operating hours that we're looking at, I feel like are solid, and they're proposed. If it's something that you guys agree upon, I see those staying pretty standard. The scheduling, with the programming will be something that I foresee constantly evolving and changing due to necessity and demand. So we will see where we need to expand programs, where we need to add programs based upon what our public tells us. Because we have never done this before, we don't know exactly what we're going to be looking at as far as participation. However, I feel like from what I'm getting from everybody involved, it's going to be a lot. So moving on to, this is a proposed staffing schedule, just to kind of show how we would spread out staffing. This staffing example does not include an assistant TO, but because we hadn't originally approved that. And so I would say that by adding that assistant TO, we just will have some extra coverage because we have to be in basically 3 areas at the same time, having registration, having somebody at the track, and also having somebody with rentals. So those positions will cross. I do plan to have lots of cross training so that everybody kind of knows what to do. You know, everybody can do everything at the track so that we can all change places. Potential revenue streams, we did touch a little bit on that, but USA BMX programming, track rentals, which as stated there shows that you can do pro clinics, private lessons, you can rent out the track to race teams, and also birthday parties. Our rental program, which I'll touch on a little bit more on another slide, obvious revenue potential there. Additional programming, which I think this is probably going to be bigger than we expect. Additional programming outside of USA BMX, which involves what Brad said, the RC cars, potential live music, after school and summer camps, coaching lessons, skateboard, border cross, inline cross are all possibilities on this particular track with this particular service, and all falling under our all-wheels adaptive ability to be able to allow virtually any rolling wheels on this track outside of electric bikes. Next would be concessions. And we are still in the process of figuring out exactly which direction that's going to go. RFP is a strong possibility. We also are going to be selling track merchandise, potentially the jersey that you see here, and other types of merchandise that will support some sales for also promoting the track as well. And then sponsorships. Sponsorships are a big part of the revenue generating machine for BMX tracks. We'll touch on that on the next slide here. Lots of possible sponsorship avenues. You can see here that we can name the track itself a title sponsorship, which we saw that Rock Hill, when we did our trip up there for research, we found that they do have a title sponsorship name. That's something we can definitely look into. You have the ability to name certain parts of the track with different types of potential sponsors, but they're obviously, like looking at the map here, there are a lot of possibilities as far as being able to get sponsors. And I will say that from my experience at Durango BMX, that was literally one of our largest revenue generators was sponsorship. So that's something we'll definitely want to look at down the road and take advantage of.
So does that, I have a question.
Yeah.
So does that typically happen, when does that typically happen in your experience with other parks and with the sponsorships coming in? And the reason why I'm asking is because should we have this program set up so that when we do open and when we get interest, we have information to put out about what that sponsorship program looks like?
Absolutely. I think it would be a good idea to have some sort of a structure. And basically what my experience was in the past is that we had several different tiers, levels of sponsorship, whether it be from a small banner to a large banner to a corner naming and potentially a banner behind that corner, and then all the way up to a title sponsorship, what those potentially might cost. And what they might look like as a contract, going forward.
Because we don't want to, I would want to be in a position where we're making people or entities, companies wait 6 months before we have a program in place. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
We need to say, okay, you want to be a sponsor? Here's our full package
100%.
of what that looks like, and let's talk about how we can make that happen.
I agree with you 100% on that.
So do you think
Madam
that will be ready by the time we open
Absolutely.
this spring? Okay.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes, Mayor, and that's the next part, what we're working on, and that's why we wanted to show you all of the possibilities, even just with the track of where we can actually get a sponsor. So that's the next big task list for us to be working on, to bring forward and present to the city manager that these are opportunities, and then work on putting that out there.
Dave, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that, you said you worked at other tracks, correct?
Correct.
So certainly you're familiar with the way they did their sponsorships and naming rights with those tracks.
Yes.
So just
Exactly.
take what you've learned from
That-
everybody else
I
and
would
bring
pull
it here.
I would pull it from
and-
directly from my experience at Durango
Because
BMX.
I agree with the mayor, we should have that in place before, but that's very important. If I'm putting up money for my company to sponsor something, I want to know what I'm getting.
For sure.
Not just speculating, oh, we might put your banner over here, we might put your sign here. I want to know up front where my money's going.
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't consider putting forth that plan without the back end being set up. I mean, I think that's a 100% understandable. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, Councilman Pickett, thank you, Christina, for what you said. I was going to say exactly what Christina said, and that is now that we're focusing on, we can see light at the end of the tunnel in terms of completion of the project. Now we need to start focusing on these revenue type, sponsorship type elements of the project, and we will be focused on that going forward.
Talking about our proposed fee structure, I've been working on coming up with this. We're looking at multiple different ways of doing this. One of the things we've talked about as a proposed idea is a tiered membership along with a standard entry fee. And then this tiered membership would provide an increased level of benefits based on the membership level. Initially, I put 2 different tiers, and those are dependent upon how much they cost, $100 for one, $500 for another. We haven't finalized that yet, obviously, but I like the idea of a tiered membership, and that seems to be the standard that I've come across with a lot of the parks in the area. And that's something that I think that would put us kind of in that best national practices. But based upon the membership level, there would be level of benefits, including discounted entry fees, free track merchandise like shirts, hats, discounted non-BMX events, anything that we would do outside of the USA BMX umbrella. They would potentially have some discounts going forward with that, also based upon the level of membership. And then also some free passes for family and friends based on the level of membership. So you're getting a perceived value that allows you to not have to pay as much as the general public and some other things that come along with it, as well as having a standard entry fee that aligns with what I've seen and what we've researched around the country and in Florida. The fee structure for USA BMX, track coaching lessons and clinics, again, are based on national research and experience. Most of those fee structures are pretty generally set by what the rest of the country does as far as all that USA BMX programming. Proposed rental inventory, I have accounts set up. We are ready to purchase. We wanted to make sure that we are providing the top-of-the-line equipment to match the top-of-the-line track. We're going to have a full size range of for children to adult bikes to rent, including the ever popular and always loved Strider program, where we will get as many little ones on non-pedal bikes as possible. And that's just been a great feeder program for the rest of the BMX, and people really love watching it. It's one of the more exciting things at the track, for sure. The little guys are fun to watch.
I love the trike for us old people.
Yes, now that is...
Jolene, I want to see you on that.
If only you do it with me.
I'm calling that an
And
adaptive
Anthony.
BMX.
And David.
But I think it is a great idea. It makes total sense, and Mike McIntyre, the builder, has assured me that we could even be able to put a recumbent bike on this track successfully. So I'm excited to see that happen for sure. The rental program does a lot for us, it's as well as a revenue generator. It adds to the inclusivity of the track and boost rider count. I've seen this directly from my experience at other tracks. It's something that you really need to have and will provide the ability for parents who aren't quite willing to completely jump into BMX right off the bat and want to see their kid have some initiative, and that will allow them to be able to, try it out without having to go out and purchase an expensive bike to start.
That's funny. I think we should have an inaugural council trike ride. Wouldn't
I
that
think it'd be fun.
That would be pretty cool. The rental program is set to outfit customers from toddlers to adults. Like I said, it's a revenue builder and increases in our rider base, and that I've seen 100% directly from my experience.
Okay.
Along with helmets, we will provide a full-size range of helmets as well, and I'm going to one of the best manufacturers in the industry to provide those helmets so that we look top of the line across the board. Next is our construction update video. So I will, I'd like to just update, I was out at the track yesterday, and there's even some more progress that that was out beyond this video. All four of the straightaways are completely done. We have rebar in 2 of the corners. The pump track is almost completely rebarred and ready for concrete. In the meeting yesterday, we were discussing things like fencing and landscaping, and so everything is moving very fast. I've been very impressed with the speed at which these guys have been building this track. In fact, where we are right now is barely 30 days from, just over 30 days from the day they actually started the construction on the track itself. So the speed at which they're having this thing come out of the ground is pretty impressive. Few features I'd like to touch on just with the track. Obviously, the concrete surface is something that's brand new. It'll be the first of its kind in the United States, and probably with the all-wheels adaptability is the first of its kind in the world. It's first ever completely computer designed and built BMX track, which gives it a perfection level that is far beyond anything I've ever witnessed in BMX. And I have been around 2 of the Olympic track builders and watched their build process. And this build process is light years beyond anything that's ever been done. So again, kudos to you guys for finding Mike McIntyre, because his forethought and his ingenuity and his brain is absolutely phenomenal when it comes to designing skate parks and BMX tracks. Really, really impressive. As far as what's left to do, obviously, there's a lot left. We're working into, like I said, we're talking about landscaping and fencing, and we've got a building to construct. And like I said, everything is moving forward, and I'm really excited about the way everything's turning out. We went through about 8 or 9 different versions of our rental / concession / office bathroom building. We're at a point now where I think we've got what is the best design of that, and fortunately through the process, it's even though it took a little longer, it turned out to be better than we ever expected to start. Next, proposed branding. You can see as I'm wearing our new BMX logo jersey, Communications has been hard at work providing a new logo and also some ideas, some really exciting branding ideas going forward. One of being the fact that I am going to have all of our track employees outfitted in PSL BMX race uniforms and matching helmet, so that we will, with a staff on the back, so that we will all be very recognizable, but also very respected on the track as people who look like they know what they're doing. And I think that's going to be a big step to help bridge the gap between community, BMX community, and municipality-run facility. So I think that's a great thing. Along with the racewear, we're going to be doing some other branding ideas. You can go ahead and go to the next one, Brad. Some more branding ideas that involve things of the nature of like a flag. The windsock flags. We're also going to be doing a really cool outdoor building wrap that will be facing when you walk in, that should cover the whole side of that building. I'm really excited for that. I think that's going to be super cool and just kind of give you a really good, exciting idea of what you're stepping into right when you get to the track. Moving on, Communications also has been working hard on creating our social media presence. We have created a domain name, and that has been purchased as pslbmx.com. We are going to be having a landing page on our USA BMX website. Their microsite allows us the ability to take registration, to post motos, up-to-date BMX, USA BMX information, membership information, all kinds of things that are provided on their site that would be difficult, if not impossible, to provide outside of their site. So we're definitely going to be taking advantage of that and providing what is pretty much the standard for all tracks use this same site. And because of its user-friendly, BMX community is very used to it, very aware of it. Also looking at doing Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Instagram tends to be the best for your weekly activity, photos, videos, anything that's fun and exciting. Facebook also is now being used and within the BMX community, kind of the best for weekly information, calendar events, weather updates. So having a diverse social media presence, it fits a bunch of the needs and also will help get information to the public that is vital to them and also to the operation.
And who's going to be running the social media for this? Is this communications? Is it Maureen going to be doing it?
Maureen's in charge, but she'll be working very closely with Todd and his
Right.
team.
Okay.
Todd's had experience running, providing Facebook comment and content and social media content, so he's
Right.
got a really good idea of what we need, and Maureen will be working hand in hand with him.
Okay.
And I actually did include it into my job descriptions that all employees will be responsible for providing some sort of content. Anybody who's at the track on a regular basis and knows what they're looking at will be easily available to provide pictures, commentary, whatever it is. It's the people that are there daily that can provide that type of content the best. So they'll be aware of that. Just pull out your phone and take a picture. Most people are pretty good at that. Next, we'll move on to point of sale. So we've been looking at the ability to be able to incorporate the track programming, race and practice fees, camps, clinics, lessons, facility entrance, our rental program, fees and asset management, all through our existing rec track program that we're all familiar with and have used. And it's what I understand to be a tried and true product that will obviously help us integrate directly into point of sale for the track. And that's all I have at this point. If you guys have any questions, feel free. Otherwise, I, again, thank you, and I could not be more excited about where I'm standing right now, and the potential of what we're about to embark on is going to be very exciting.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
It's definitely very exciting. It's a first. And to use some old terminology, it's great to be on the vanguard of this. Can you walk us through the differences between what BMX is going to be doing versus what we're going to be doing and allowing that public access? So, for example, what does that look like?
So the USA BMX programming typically, and I think we're going to start out a little on the lighter side of what we consider a full USA BMX schedule. And part of that is because I want to see the potential and what the growth of the program will be. And then secondly, we want to have an ample amount of time for what we feel like is going to be, could potentially be as big of a contributor to the track in this outside programming, like RC cars, skateboard racing, inline racing, just open accessibility to adaptability. So if we have somebody with a handicap that wants to come and use the track, having this open ability to be able to have the track open and provide that access to people is not what is the normal in most BMX tracks. Most BMX tracks operate with the USA BMX program, and then they're closed for the rest of the time.
Right.
So we have, as we go, and I will be developing programs based upon necessity and demand. Whoever shows up and wants to use this thing, we'll get you on there. And if we have enough people that are wanting to do it, then we'll take it to the next level and we'll create a race program or whatever it is that needs to be provided for those particular users.
So then you'll be doing the day-to-day, right?
Correct.
With your team. But then if BMX wants to come in and provide tournaments and racing, then they'll coordinate with you to figure out how to make that happen.
Exactly. Yes,
Okay.
and I've even started looking at some outside sports associations that could potentially be user groups of the track and bringing those in. And we'd like to even see some of those at our grand opening, to kind of just show what the possibilities are, because I think there's going to be people out there that just don't know because it's never been done.
So then as far as concessions, your team will be doing that. As far as the rentals, your team will be doing that. So our team here will be doing all of that, except for whatever BMX does separately, correct?
Yes, Madam Mayor, there is a possibility, depending on which route we take with concessions, we may, through the RFP process, go with a vendor, that they would operate the concession stand. But yes, it would be Todd and his staff that operates the rental barn, bike barn, manning the front registration desk, doing the track operations, manning the corners and the turns of the track for safety, all of those things. And typically, and Todd, please correct me if I misstate something here, typically as what I have come to learn is that a typical USA BMX type schedule would be 2 practice nights a week and a race night, whether it be a Friday or Saturday night. All the other hours outside those 3 nights would be open and available for local programming.
Okay.
And then we are providing the 3 additional free blocks that we're going to do, that we'll do weekly. So that will include a Monday, and this is subject to change and I'll propose, but basically like a Monday evening, a Wednesday evening, and then Sunday, we were looking at doing free accessibility to the track as well, outside of our normal operation hours.
And Mayor, if I may also, very important to mention coaching as well too. Todd can coach himself, but he will be also working with coaches for the clinics and bringing those type of programmings in as well. Because that's a big thing for
Right, and
those that want to learn or have never used it or are just beginning, and to get them interested in it so it continues them through the life cycle of BMX. A lot of those clinics and coaching.
Absolutely,
be
and
looking
I
at
plan on
coaches.
having all, if not most, I would like to have at least half of my staff as certified USA BMX coaches, so that we have the ability to do that coaching in-house through our own programs versus, which we will also do, but have outside pros come through that do camps and clinics as well, to give a diverse programming, coaching ability for all types of riders, from beginners all the way up to advanced riders.
Okay. And the other question I have, Brad, maybe you can answer this. So at a council meeting where we discussed this previously, we talked about parking. We talked about trailers coming in for these tournaments and these races and things. What have we done to make sure that we're facilitating enough parking? Because as we know, with every park that gets built, you know, there's always that question of, do we have enough parking? And we were just talking about parking yesterday, you know, at the Port District. So have we addressed the trailer parking issue?
I would say we are in the process of addressing the trailer issue. We have an area that appears on the conceptual master plan for Tradition Regional Park that was always viewed as a future parking lot, primarily to facilitate the 3 grass soccer or multipurpose fields. However, under Phase 1 of Tradition Regional Park development, that area was not included in the Phase 1 development. We are in the process of exploring how we can at least get that area stabilized so that it can be used for RVs and trailers on the event, or in the event that our programming would require that use.
All right, so that really needs to happen, because here's what's going to happen. We're going to open it. Those things are going to start happening. The races are going to start getting scheduled, especially with the fact that it's new park. Everyone's going to want to come and be here. And then we're going to get complaints about there's not parking for trailers, there's not parking for this. The trailers are taking up 2 spaces. So, I mean, I'm a little disappointed that we haven't figured this out already, because in my view, we should have, especially since we brought it up several months ago about our concern. And it wasn't just my concern, it was a consensus concern about the parking. So
Mayor?
I hope that can be accelerated.
If I may, we are in the process of working potentially with someone on site right now that may be coming to you shortly on the agenda to get this done. So we are on it.
Okay.
It will be ready by the time that it's open. We're just finalizing which method we're doing that with, but it should be, and staff has been on it. And so our goal is to make sure that that is stabilized and ready at the opening of the park.
Okay.
And Madam Mayor, to your question, yes, we did hear you. We took that into consideration. We were trying to work with a contractor that was there, working through Mattamy. They said no, so basically we're having to go on our own to make sure we get that accomplished before the track opens. So that is in process.
Okay.
One other side note to that, just from my experience and also from talking with USA BMX, the types of events that we would have that would require us to have the parking for RVs will only be a state or a national event. We would not be having one of those within the first year of operation, just because of the way they they want tracks to have some footing. They want us to get the program going. So the potential for these larger events really wouldn't surface until, in my experience and what I'm envisioning, until 2027 would be the first opportunity for us to be on that schedule, because they literally will have to change the state race schedule now, because they alternate two different schedules to get to all the tracks. So they'll have to redo their schedule to incorporate us, which I know they're expecting to do. Everything that we've done and that they've done to build this track was with the intent of having state and national races. So yes, obviously, absolutely important that we do that, but we do have a little bit of time before we have one of those major events.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing up the RVs. I wasn't even really focused on that, but that's an excellent point. My thought was the trailers, because even, there are people that just have trailers and they prefer that some of their kids have more than one bike.
Right.
So they bring them in anyway. And so just to make sure we had that parking. So, Dave, did you have something?
No, I'm glad you brought the parking issue up, because I was sitting here looking at the picture, and I distinctly remember the last conversation that we had. We brought up parking, and parking, I know it's going to be an issue. I wouldn't want to spend thousands of dollars on a BMX bike and throw it in the back of my pickup. I'm sure, I know my personal bike, I don't put in the back of my pickup. It goes in a trailer. So that was my concern. I'm glad it was addressed. The other question that I have, if we're going to have BMX competitions, have we considered where TV cameras are going to go and stuff like that? Have we thought about that at all?
So what typically happens is USA BMX brings in their own filming crew for that, and basically they set up on site. I know that's something that is taken into consideration from the builder. But as far as actual specific locations set up for filming, no. But like I said, my experience is that USA BMX, when they come in and do a larger event, they have their own crew. They typically set up in kind of the same areas, because one day they only film the first half of the track. They don't show the whole track until the main events on the last day. So they kind of have a process in the way that they do that. Outside of that, I have not had the experience of being at an event where there was additional coverage, so to speak, unless it was a news team or something along those lines, and they just basically set up wherever they feel like is the best vantage point to get the shot that they're looking for. Yep.
Comments?
Hi, Todd.
Hello.
Just out of curiosity, because obviously we don't get to talk about this stuff unless we're here. I'm assuming, Dave, you've been to a BMX race before, it sounds like? Because you seem like you know a little bit more than I even did.
I'm sorry, what did
Have you been to a BMX race before?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I figured. I was like, from what you did, have you, Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
Okay. It was my first one. Bonna, have you been to one? Okay. So I've never seen it. And part of me as a mother is looking at that really high track, because, when we were discussing bringing on a BMX track or a skate track, when I was new on the council, the conversation kind of was all happening at the same time. I got to see Rock Hill, South Carolina, and I remember standing at the precipice of the top of that long ramp down, and I was like, there's no way in the world would I ever let my child do something like this. I was terrified of it when I saw it. And when we were going to go back to Rock Hill, South Carolina, and part of that was because of the gold standard of what they do in the BMX world. They are like the top place to go to meet with their staff. I was told, Todd's like, we're going to go watch a BMX race. And I'm like, I had to say I had some apprehension getting ready to watch these kids go around this track. And then Todd's telling me about how slurry is made and how it's like concrete. And basically, we're going to have a concrete track, but if you fall down, it's like concrete. And, first of all, I was so excited when I saw the little kids. Like, I don't think, unless you've seen that experience, these kids going over these ramps, was just, they were having so much fun. And watching the parents, I'm talking like 3-year-old, 4-year-old kids going over the ramps, mom and dad catching them as like taking their first steps. It was like the sweetest thing ever. And then you had these other kids that were like 8 years old, like flying around the track. And I'm like, how many people am I going to see get hurt today, Todd? And Todd's like, you're probably not going to see. I mean, it's rare, Jolene. It's really rare. And it's amazing how these tracks are constructed, how safe they are, how these kids were taking hard turns, and a couple even fell, got right back up, and kept on moving, and they were fine. I mean, so if any parent is afraid of letting their child try USA BMX, I would say go watch a race, go watch one of our races when it happens, and invite your kids. This is going to be a whole new just world for the city of Port St. Lucie and our ability for our children to diversify their sports. I love baseball, I love football, I love soccer, all great sports, but kids deserve to try this, and I think kids deserve to see if they're talented in it. Todd, talk about your championships, because you've never talked about that. So when they say coaching, why should you be coaching, Todd?
Well, I am a former world champion. I'm also in the Texas BMX Hall of Fame. I've been
Awesome.
doing this my entire life, literally since I was 7 years old, so well over 40 years now. I won't disclose exactly how old I am. But this has been my life, and I have raced at well over 100 BMX tracks. I have been involved in the sport for almost since its inception. So again, kudos to you guys for hiring myself and the experience base.
Oh, thank you. We're happy you're here.
Yeah, and I again, I just it's just such a surreal situation, and I couldn't have ever imagined as a small kid racing BMX in Texas that I would be standing in this kind of a forum with this kind of a job in BMX. It's really amazing and kind of full circle moment for me for sure.
Oh, you better never screw up,
So
or else
Yeah.
city manager's going to have an issue there.
exactly. So the USA BMX portion is like the portion I was the most familiar with, but then the UCI portion is what Todd was explaining to me, that's even larger than USA BMX because it's international, it's worldwide. And when he speaks to the type of racing that's going to be available, what's fascinating and what I was learning from Todd was that UCI is looking at adding the other types of wheels outside of just biking potentially into their programs, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, just at this point, it's just USA BMX. UCI, that size, that international governing body hasn't taken that step yet. It will be interesting to see that there's a possibility that we may see a track like ours in the next Olympics. And I think that with what we're doing here, like I said, we're setting a precedent, and this is literally a step in evolution for the sport of BMX. And I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on what we do here. And going forward, there are going to be more tracks like this for sure.
And then talking about the track, and I think because going now to the numbers, which I know everyone is concerned about, the residents will be asking about, the way that this track was constructed and learning about how, number one, current BMX tracks are maintained and constructed. When you look at the slurry, having to re-slurry the tracks, maintain the lawn, all of these things, and the reoccurring maintenance that comes with that, it's a definite challenge whenever you're trying to at least break even when you create something like this for the public. This track, the way that it was constructed, not only was it constructed in a way that the maintenance would be minimal, the changing of the track is interesting because essentially what I was learning from Todd is if we decide to modify this track and let's say we're going to do something new to it, you literally just cut a section of the track out, pull it out, put the new piece of the concrete track in. The cost to change the track and to make these changes is going to be minimal in comparison to what it costs us to change a regular dirt BMX track. So, I mean, kudos to the team, to Parks and Rec, with the design, with working with Todd, with kind of thinking that long range of what is that going to look like, how are we going to make sure that, you know, it stays fresh when we do have to change elements and stay affordable. People, I'm going to tell you, we were standing there watching the race, and Todd had his Parks and Rec jacket on, and it said PSL, and we had people coming out of the audience coming up to us and being like, are you from Port St. Lucie? We've been watching that track. We've been on your website. I mean, people are already coming from out of state to see this track. It is a really big deal to the BMX community. Also, it looks like your staffing levels, which I think is important to note, Rock Hill, I didn't count how many staff were in the room that we met with, but just by looking at the numbers, we have less staff, and we're going to be running this track even with less staff than what they have, correct?
I believe so. It will be close, because I think they had those junior employees that were part of the staff there, that we have incorporated into our regular staffing plan. But it's pretty similar. It may be just a little less, but similar.
Yeah, I think it's a little less, and then what I loved about it was, and we do this a lot internally that we do need to talk about, but as we're talking to the staff, those staff all perform all types of different jobs. There is not a job that they don't do on that track. So this conversation where people say, oh, well, that's all they do and that's all they're getting paid for. No, they're literally running from having to run concessions to having to run tent city to having to, they literally run from top to bottom everything. Sponsorship, I agree with the mayor and with Councilman Pickett, and I also think that Mr. Barrios, if you can make sure that your team is working hand in hand with Todd to make sure we get to the legal specifications of how that sponsorship is going to work, I'd really appreciate it. And then besides the challenge of the RV parking, which I 100% it was interesting, it was an issue over there too. They did not foresee that.
Right.
So they had to readapt to that. What I loved is their multi-purpose fields were also being utilized for tent city. So they were able to host people for those events, which is amazing. The other challenge that we're going to have is that building in the future. And I asked Todd if we're able to, if we had to do a second story to it to go up, we could. The one in Rock Hill has 2 stories. Part of that is for track visualization and to be able to see the track and the property. But the other thing too is we're going to need tickets, concessions. Brad talked about whether we do it or whether we do an RFP. As we go down the line, I really want to continue discussing the model of Rock Hill in regards to how they handle Parks and Rec. I'm hoping, we have been talking about fees, I know, and Stephen is also working on to see if there's something we can do with the hospitality type of tax. I will tell you, they run all their programs and do all their capital improvements based upon this hospitality tax that they're able to collect. And they use almost no taxpayer funding to build their CIP out for parks, which is absolutely incredible. But they also do national and state events. Their rec centers are national and state events, and they basically generate their revenue. A lot of it is from the fees that they charge. They were telling me they can charge up to, I think it was, $1,000 for the weekend for an RV parking space.
At a large event, like a World Cup or a World Championship.
And to me, those are the things that I really want to make sure that we are looking at, because the goal is, just like we're doing with the Saints, that this should pay for itself
Yes.
and generate enough revenue to pay for itself. And I think it can, especially since the maintenance component isn't going to be there. I have so much to say on this. Food trucks, I don't want to forget about food trucks. That was a big component too over there that they use for rental revenue. This is going to be bigger than what we think. I'm glad that the other portions of tradition, we still have time to reimagine if necessary.
Yeah.
Because this may change the whole game for that particular area. And I didn't realize that until I got to see it in action and how big and the people's response. I mean, even Rock Hill, which I said is the gold standard, was going up to Todd and being like, so what are you doing with the track? You're doing concrete? When can I come and ride that track? Like, it was just like, people were impressed and very curious of how this is going to transition the sport. So,
One of the other things I'd like to mention that we took away from Rock Hill that fortunately doesn't cost us anything was their level of hospitality.
Amen.
Absolutely remarkable from the ground up. Everything we experienced there was a level of hospitality that I think is something we should definitely strive for. That's something I took away that I felt like was very important. And again, that's something that doesn't cost us anything. That's something we can do just by being good people and and having good management and making sure our employees understand that that's what we're going to do.
Here's what's crazy. What's their motto?
This is where competition lives.
That's theirs, but what's Rock Hill's motto? Do you remember?
I don't.
Always on.
Always on, that's right.
I mean, so their model is always on, and I will tell you, their staff, the mentality, the hospitality, the focus was, we're always on. I was beyond impressed, not just with the BMX, but the organization as a whole, and the way that their Parks Department attacked the challenge of parks in the city.
That's awesome.
Madam Mayor, just,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
as far as the hospitality tax, I've asked Stephen to start looking into that, and we're probably going to be getting a presentation in the near future on that.
Okay.
And the other part that was not mentioned was that we all here stand a chance to actually race. So we're going to put a little competition on who can finish first. So we're going to be looking forward to all of us doing a little race.
Who's all of us?
All of us.
All of you.
All of us.
I'm not racing anyone. I'll go for a ride, but I ain't racing anybody.
I'm out of town that weekend.
No, you're not. You are doing the trike ride, whether you like it or not.
I want to see baby Anthony when he starts, running
Yeah.
like on
But
the
what was
trikes.
impressive, you had people in the 60s, 70s, 80s
Yes.
racing out there. That
Yeah.
was so impressive. So, I'm just looking around the room here. I'm like, you know what? We stand a chance.
Okay.
There were, and he's serious, there was motos, that's another thing I learned, was motos is a different races, correct? Is that right?
Yep.
You had a person doing a moto with an 8-year-old, or like say a 13-year-old, 14-year-old that was in their 40s. I mean, so it really does, to see a dad that could be racing with their child in the same race it's so cool. It really was. It is like, it was a real family sport, and that's where I was. You see it on TV, you see the pictures, you think it's these rough and tough young kids that are just running around, flying around a track. It's more of a family sport than people would actually imagine.
Right.
Madam Mayor, I was going to thank you, Vice Mayor, for saying that. That was going to be my comment, is the one thing that I think the four of us that went to Rock Hill pulled away from there knowing or seeing and understanding is that how the BMX community is truly a family-oriented sport. To the Vice Mayor's point, you had kids that were 3, 4 years old on Strider bikes, and they'd do their races, and they'd pull right around, and there's the mom and the women's level competition, and then the dad would come strolling in, and it was amazing. They were all in jerseys, and they literally made that night, and that was just a Friday night, and they literally made that Friday night their family activity, and it was really impressive to watch.
That's awesome. So when we're talking about the future with Tradition Regional, and we know that there's a good section of the park that's under the power lines, and we know that FP&L does not allow anything really except for parking under the power lines, and I understand that it may be a little bit further out, but I want to just make sure that if we can utilize that area for more parking, because I don't want to give up other space that we can be using for future ball fields or other types of recreation,
That's an excellent point.
And if it's that it's far, then we have to plan for getting people to and from that parking area to this area, the area where the BMX is. Also, our focus is very, very heavily on BMX. That's what this whole conversation has been about. But I don't want to forget that this is supposed to be an adaptive all-wheel park, and we have the skateboarding community.
Yep.
And so, and
Inline
we have
skates.
other we have the inline skating community. So I don't want to make it seem like this is just for BMX, because we've been touting all along this is an adaptive all-wheel park. So, surfers? Oh, God, don't. So let's not forget that as we're having these
Absolutely.
conversations, because we want everyone to be able to use it, whoever wants to use it, and whatever types of wheels that they have. So,
100% agreed, and I think you've seen a glimpse of that in Todd's proposed scheduling, where he
Yeah.
has each day.
Right.
And of course, that's very flexible. We can adjust that based on demand. Another point, excellent point on using the FP&L area of Tradition for parking. The Vice Mayor mentioned it at Rock Hill, and keep in mind, Rock Hill was designed as a national and international drawing facility. We're state and local, so we're not quite as big as them, but still, we can anticipate having large crowds.
Correct.
They use their soccer fields, which are next door, but it's still a couple hundred yards away when they set up their tent city, that they call it, for all of their participants to come in. And to your point, Madam Mayor, using the FP&L right-of-way for parking, trailers, RVs, it's not that far of a way,
Right.
distance away. So that's an excellent idea.
I like that. Yep. All right, thanks so much. It's been great, great conversation, and I know we're all looking forward to opening day.
Me too.
All right, we are at our break point, so we're going to take 15 minutes. Okay, we are back from break, and we are going to get right into our Police Department High Impact Plan. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning. I think we'll roll right into my favorite topic, traffic, bicycle, and pedestrian safety.
Yay.
Very, very broad topic with a whole lot to cover, so I really just wanted to kind of get council up to date on the approach and strategy that we've moved into this year. So when I took over as chief in late '24, it was very obvious and apparent that we had issues with the way we were addressing traffic. And my favorite saying is that if you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you've always got. So it was clear that we needed to make some changes. So first change was to get our traffic unit out of side streets and residential areas and into high visibility locations where the community would see what they were doing and see the enforcement. So we benefit from enforcement two ways in that regard. One, not just the people who are being educated and stopped, but also the community that's observing that enforcement is occurring. And that was one step, and it was a cultural shift that I'm still kind of navigating. You know, the traffic unit is prone to want to be in locations where they can write a lot of tickets, because the number of tickets that you write, generally speaking and traditionally, has been the benchmark for gauging performance. And I would argue that point that it's not how many tickets you're writing, it's the quality tickets and the effect that they're having. And I would say not just the tickets, but the interactions with the community, right? So they were prone to go to locations where they knew they could write a lot of tickets, but those locations weren't necessarily areas where we were having a problem, where we weren't having a high number of crashes, we weren't having a high number of injuries, but why are we focusing our attention in those areas? So the next thing I did is I brought in the Santoses last year, as you recall, on a consulting deal, and we upgraded our accountability and our data and evidence-based policing model. And that allowed me to bring in some new staff members because we had some leave. And I started working with our new director, training and analysis director, and planning analysis director. And we said, well, why aren't we applying the same principles to our traffic problem that we do with our crime? Because we've been very, very successful at reducing crime, right? And the way we do that is stratified model. So we started trying to say, okay, well, let's figure out how do we apply a stratified model to our traffic issues. So we also, at the same time last year, realized that we were seeing fatalities on our roadway at a higher rate than we had in the prior few years. So at the end of 2025, we totaled 18 fatalities versus 12 in 2024. So early on, the driving component that was consistent in our fatalities were right-angle crashes and DUI. So if you want to try to reduce your fatalities, you focus on those components. So the right-angle crashes were pretty easy. Okay, intersections that have the highest level of right-angle crashes. So we did a lot of research on that, as well as we were preparing for the camera program, right? So we said, okay, well, where do we need to be focusing our enforcement, right? Where we want to reduce the right-angle crashes. So we started assigning intersections as part of our accountability process. And that was a little tough because intersections are very busy, there's a lot of activity, and it's hard for a traffic officer to focus their enforcement on just an intersection. So then we did some more research and realized that intersections are influenced by the roadways that flow into them. And instead of focusing on just an intersection, we focus on a corridor, right? And these corridors contain these intersections but influence them heavily. So we identified the most dangerous corridors in the city, and we assigned them to the captains over those regions. And we began holding our patrol officers as well as our traffic unit accountable for those corridors. And we found that it was a lot easier to get the enforcement in the location that we were directing it to be. And it was really improved productivity without demanding productivity be improved. The whole department seemed to really take to it. And the early results are very promising. In the last couple of months, we've seen a reduction in right-angle crashes in the city. So that being said, we ended up with 26 more crashes in 2025 than in 2024. Considering the number of people that moved into the city, I'd say that's not horrible, but we want to tilt it in the other direction. So we're going to continue this strategy and approach as we move through 2026. We'll keep our accountability model in place, and we'll see how that plays out. The traffic unit, I'm continuing to redesign how that's operating. With the increase in traffic fatalities and my analysis of what the unit was producing, I recognize that, our long-term investigations, our fatalities, were being handled by the traffic unit. Traffic unit is our greatest enforcement component, and they're spending a lot of their time on long-term investigations as opposed to being on the street where I needed them. So I took a hard deep dive on that. I looked at how other agencies are doing that, and I recognized the opportunity to reassign those investigations to Criminal Investigations Division, which that's what they do, work long-term investigations. So that is currently in the works. We've reassigned a sergeant to Criminal Investigations. We are now posted for the THIs to be assigned. So I was initially going to add FTEs to the traffic unit was my first instinct, but then I recognized improving their performance would be better served by taking some of the things that they're assigned away from them so they can focus on their mission. So probably within the next month, we will have the long-term investigations removed from the traffic unit. Additionally, I am moving the traffic unit out from under the district support division in the police department. Reason being is the district support unit provides a wide variety of services to the city and the agency, and they have a great number of responsibilities, and they have a tendency to grab all of their available employees and put them on different missions. So I noticed that the traffic unit would often be taken and removed from their task and diverted to other places. So they're going to be moved onto the Special Operations Division in the Neighborhood Policing Bureau, which is completely operational and mission-focused. So I think that'll greatly improve their productivity this year, as well as in the correct places that we should see the greatest return. So I'm really excited about it. Very simple concept, basic, but, again, just thinking outside and taking the opportunity to not assume that the way we've done it for the last 20 years is correct. Make sense?
Yep.
Down here, there are some crime stats. I would just add that for 2025, we did see an overall reduction in crime of 3% in the city. So national level crime is trending down. The crime is amazingly low in the city of Port St. Lucie to the point that my two biggest problems, greatest opportunities right now to reduce crime are focusing on retail theft and domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
Retail theft is the biggest property crime and the biggest crime driver we have in the city right now. When I talk to my counterparts and interact with them across the country, and especially in Florida, most of them are focused on reducing homicides and street robberies. So I consider myself very lucky that retail theft and domestic violence are my biggest crime challenges. Retail theft, and specifically our 3 super Walmarts in the city, are responsible for 25% of all crime reported in the city.
Wow.
And that's something that, we really focused in on this year, and something that we are really trying to come up with a strategy. We've done an awful lot of work on it. We've focused, if you've gone to one of the Super Walmarts recently, you probably came across a police officer. We're doing a lot of directed patrols, a lot of presence trying to deter crime. Walmart is hyper-focused on managing their shrinkage. So they are very actively seeking shoplifters, resulting in a number of arrests, because every time they apprehend, they call us, we come, respond, we make an arrest. Our crime stats climb. It is what it is. So we're working with corporate, trying to look at ways to harden the targets within Walmart to make it less attractive, less appealing. But that's an ongoing process we're focused on this year.
Chief,
And, yes,
real quick question. And does Walmart prosecute shoplifters?
they do. They do, and they do, but they have a threshold that, right now, they're working on a threshold of $25, so anything below, they don't prosecute. They're currently not prosecuting juveniles. So, which is okay. We use the diversion program through the state, so. But it is what it is. I don't think that the prosecution's the issue. I think the issue is hardening the target and making it less attractive. So we're focused on how we can do that. I think that we've proven that the directed patrols are not giving us the results that we wanted. So we're trying to refocus and figure out what that's going to look like.
No, I appreciate that because, obviously, as we see retail theft increase around the country in certain areas, I think there's this discussion of non-prosecution, and I think some people might think they can go in there and probably not get prosecuted, but I think that's a good statement. I hope that that's part of their model, is to tell people or, publicize that they will prosecute if you shoplift.
So that's one avenue I think we're going to end up having to do for them, because I don't think they're going to do that. But locally, within the city at least, it's something that we're going to have to bring awareness to.
Do we have entities within the city that do not prosecute shoplifters?
We do. Target's known for that. And a lot of them simply look the other way. They won't approach. Home Depot, I know there's a good amount going on, but they don't aggressively address it either. So the fact that Walmart's on the radar is because they aggressively attack it, right? But that doesn't mean that the other ones don't have a problem. It's just these are the ones that are being brought to our attention.
I think that, it's important for retail corporations to partner with police, and if it's affecting the criminal nature of communities, and they need to be better partners if they're not, so.
Yeah, I find it interesting because if you go into a Walmart restroom, you see, they have signs on the doors that say, if you shoplift, you will be prosecuted. So,
They will.
yeah.
Domestic violence would be the other that we're really planning to ramp up this year, our approach. How do you combat domestic violence? It's something that knows no socioeconomic boundaries. And as the community grows, we have more people, we have more incidents. So we're focused on repeat offenders. We're focused on having conversations when we make arrests with our offenders and following up with them, trying to prevent them, because they tend to progressively get worse. So you tend to go from simple batteries to aggravateds, so they get worse over time. So it's really important to intervene and provide services early on. So there'll be some focus on our victims advocates this year and some of the things that we're doing with them. And our advocate section hasn't grown in a very long time, despite the growth of the city. So it's something I'm hoping to address this upcoming year.
It's so difficult because you never know what's going on inside someone's four walls until something happens as evidence of like what happened yesterday. So it is a huge challenge to try to regulate that and then also address human behavior. Similarly to trying to address human behavior with, bad drivers just disobeying the law and speeding and, cutting people off and, how do you regulate that, right? Unless you catch them and then you give them a ticket. But, and then mental health plays a huge factor, and it's very difficult for government to regulate that and police departments to regulate that. So it's a huge challenge for sure.
It's difficult, but we have to care.
Absolutely.
And I think all too often, government doesn't necessarily care, and I know we don't have that problem here. I firmly believe no problem can sustain the assault of continued thinking, and I think if you just focus on it long enough and engage your staff and engage the community, which is another aspect that we're launching. We're going to get community partners involved in our approach. I think we'll figure out how to reduce that problem.
And Madam Mayor, to your point, I think too, it's interesting because is it me? I mean, a lot of times people think of domestic violence, think of a husband and a wife. But a lot of the violence I'm seeing right now is not necessarily spousal. It's children and their parents. I'm seeing a lot of other types of domestic violence in the home versus just the husband and wife.
Dating violence as well, a few years back, was added to the statute. So
What was it?
Dating.
Dating violence.
So you don't have to be married, you don't have to live together. If you're in a dating type relationship, that's considered domestic violence as well.
Okay.
So
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on that because it's a much broader category than just a husband and a wife. And I do agree that mental health is a huge issue. I just got through leadership, which I know all of us have done up here. And, you know, there's still not enough resources, though. And I think that's in our county conversations in the future, I think getting an update of the efforts that they're doing to help, I think, is important because I know they work with New Horizons and other entities because it's a big problem. It's a nationwide problem. It's a human problem.
and
But
we're not immune.
we're not immune, and I think that's the biggest thing is getting that message out. Just because you're having a challenge in life doesn't make you weak.
Right.
And, you know, everyone should find a way to seek help, but the question is, do they know how to seek help and where can they seek help? And I think we could probably do a better job communicating that as us as a council, as a city, and I think it's important.
Agreed. So that's going to be part of the multi-tiered approach that we're going to take to it.
Awesome. Thank you, Chief.
Pleasure. And then I have the training facility, which Roger really touched on in great detail. I'll answer any questions if there are any regarding it, but we're on track, we're on target, and I expect the building to be turned over to us late March, and we're looking forward to hopefully a ribbon cutting in June sometime, late June. By that point, we should be able to have it furnished and all the equipment up and running, and it'll present nicely. Real-time Public Information Center is already underway. The location is the old training room in Building B. We have worked with HJ High to utilize savings from the training facility project to plan that room and do the actual construction. And we are in the process of working on a contract to purchase the hardware that needs to go in it to run it. So we're hoping that this summer we should be having that coming online. It's already coming online, just not necessarily in that location. The software is up and running. We're working with IT. We're in the process of connecting cameras throughout the city to it. We have the air docks for the DFR, Drone as a First Responders, being delivered as we speak. We should have 2 to 3 of them online in the next few weeks, and we'll start training pilots on those, on the operation of those. So the project's very much moving forward and on track.
Chief and Mayor, if I may mention, we want to thank Representative Overdorf for his support, and it is in the House budget, funding for the expansion of the drones first responder program. So we're very grateful for that and hopeful to get to the full funding amount through the budget negotiations. We actually have 4 active projects in the budget, the most I've ever seen. So we actually have 4 between the House and the Senate. So we really want to thank our delegation for their support. Thank you,
That's
Chief.
awesome.
That's great.
It is.
I want to say, I think that's all I've got. There we go. I knew there was something hiding there. Recruitment and retention, we've been very successful. We are currently fully staffed, counting our current academy class. We've got a class built out for August to meet the upcoming year's needs. Simply put, now that we're caught up, each year we monitor the budget process, determine how many FTEs, if we're adding to the agency, determine how many retirements we're anticipating. They're not surprises now with the drop, so you have everybody's end dates, and you build a class to fit the need for the agency each year.
Awesome.
Okay.
Pilot red light camera, where are we at with that?
So you should see on the agenda sometime in March, the contract with Vera Mobility to install those cameras and do a lot of the work on that project for us. I've also got 2 contract employees in the process for implementing and operating that program. So I think the July, August window should be realistic for having that project up and running as well.
All right, awesome. Any comments or questions for the chief?
Yes, I do.
See a big smile.
Vroom, vroom. E-bikes and golf carts. You know I'm going to say it. Oh, I thought you were going to throw it at me.
No, I need some water for that topic. That one's gonna.
I'm noticing, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, e-bikes are much more prevalent now, and I don't believe we have any local ordinances in place, which I have noticed that throughout the state, more and more cities are putting local ordinances in place in regards to the e-bikes. I'm noticing young children, of course, everybody is young to me, riding around on those on the sidewalks at a fast rate of speed. Now, I know that people think that if a car's speeding, it's doing 85 down your road. It's not. It's doing probably maybe 30 or 25. But it just seems like they're going extremely fast. They're on the sidewalks. They just jet out at a stop sign when a car's coming up, and it's just like it happens all of it. They don't stop. They just keep on going. Not they. Some don't. Some do. I don't see any helmets, the ages, and then I'm seeing more and more golf carts, especially going to the schools to pick up children and taking them home, and they are not road ready. And I'm wondering, are we doing anything with that, or are we being proactive, and can even the SROs assist, because they're the ones that are seeing them, picking them up, but
I think they're on
e-bikes
golf
and
carts
golf
too now.
carts. Yeah, I know.
You know, I meant to touch on this when I was talking about traffic, because it lends to the conversation I had about fatalities, because late in the year, we did start seeing a tick with fatalities with e-bikes. Okay, mostly because they're operating on sidewalks at about 28 to 30 miles an hour and failing to navigate turns, and they slide out into the roadway. And we've had a couple late in the year with that, and Christmas came, and then it was like overnight, the number of e-bikes in the city tripled. And it is a very large problem. Yes, we're proactively enforcing, but we can barely scratch the surface, to be honest. We're heavily outnumbered there, and there's just way more of it than we can go out and enforce. But what do you enforce, right? Because the vast majority of them are legal. They're being operated legally. They're just not safe. Our sidewalks aren't designed for vehicles that travel 30 miles an hour, yet they're legal on the sidewalk. So what do? Yes, you mentioned an ordinance. I've spoken to other police chiefs who are managing situations where they have the ordinances. What it did is push the bikes off the sidewalks and into the street, and they're getting killed at a higher rate. So I don't know that I know what the answer is. We're in the process of navigating that, evaluating it, and trying to figure out the best approach to take. But I can't honestly say I know what the answer is at this point. It's a big problem. We know the golf carts have been a problem. They're a problem because the people that don't have them are furious with them, and the people that have them are angry when we enforce it. Well, we just have to enforce the law that exists, right? And that's the approach that we take. Again, there's a whole lot more of them than there are of us. And we've done a lot to communicate to the community, you know, what the laws are. Because a lot of people just simply don't know. You know, they don't understand why they can't run their golf cart across Town Parkway. It baffles you, but it's true. So we've done a lot to educate, and we've done all the enforcement we can. We've adopted a zero-tolerance model, but the problem persists. So if we always do what we've always done, we're always going to get what we always got. So we have to come up with a game plan.
Right. I think it's real critical, and it's going to get worse before it gets better, I'm sure. Like you said, at Christmas, I'm seeing a lot more of them on the sidewalks, which personally I don't think they belong on the sidewalks, but like you say, then you push them to the road, and we don't have bike lanes in certain areas, and it's going to increase the fatalities. So it's darned if you do and darned if you don't. But it's just something to keep the finger on the pulse, and I'm sure you're doing that. And I know that there is I was just looking up, there is something in House bill at session this year on it. But it just seems like we need to be really keeping our finger on the pulse and watch it, because other cities are doing the ordinances, and we don't want to fall behind the 8 ball. I think we need to be proactive about it, so, thank you.
I agree with you. We'll keep working on it.
So, yeah, I agree with regard to ordinances, but what we always have to keep in mind is that we have ordinances, but how much enforcement can you really do? Because if you're not out there and an officer's not seeing it, and they don't have that discretion to see it, then you have a trouble holding those people accountable, right? Because by the time it gets called in, those people are already long gone. So there's always that challenge of you put the laws in place, but if you don't have the means to really enforce it, it's just paper on the books, but it really doesn't mean anything. So what does that line look like? And I know, and I'm really grateful for Officer LaGrega. He is out there in district support, educating the communities on a regular basis on golf carts. I know he was just in Del Webb. I know he was recently in Riverland. And so one of the things is it's great because he has the ability to get out into those communities, and they provide the people. But it would be great if there was like a general one held where we can invite the general public in and maybe not do it so much keep doing it in the gated communities, but have him be able to invite the public in to give a presentation to, the general community and say, hey, we're doing an educational component on golf carts, right?
That's a great point. And I get with the gated communities where I live, it's the neighbors, it's the
Exactly.
neighborhoods, and they don't have the benefit of having that. But
Right.
it's also maybe partnering with all of these golf cart companies that it's all about the almighty sale, that may be partnering with them for safety.
Yeah. Well, if that's, anything's possible, so,
Right.
for sure.
Everything's possible. I have to consider all the opportunities we have to improve the situation. Haven't found the answer yet. And, what I've seen is it's a delicate balance that everybody's trying to navigate. And I haven't seen anybody come up with the answer yet.
Right.
But it's something that all municipalities in the state are navigating heavily in Florida, and I imagine most of the country, but here, the golf carts are a big issue, so. And now with the e-motorcycles, it just took it to a whole nother level. You have children on vehicles that can travel up to 80-plus miles an hour, and then what happens if you try to stop them? They run, and they run on those from a police officer,
Yep,
so we won't pursue them.
right. And of course, there's no helmet law in Florida either, which,
Well, for motorcycles.
right, but,
If you have insurance.
right. But how many people are voluntarily putting on helmets? People don't like them, so,
I certainly don't want them to run from us and get killed
right.
without a helmet, because it's a problem too.
So you mentioned a great thing with the helmets. So I know that on an e-bike, if they're under the age of 16, they're supposed to be wearing a helmet. How do you know how old they are?
Right.
They're
You
going
have
to
to
tell you, oh,
verify.
I'm 16, and they're 12.
It's
Because I
usually-
can't tell.
You usually have to call their parents.
Yeah,
and-
It's hard.
it's very difficult, I
So-
understand.
When they're violating and we can get in touch with them and stop them, then we generally bring their parents out, and with the e-motorcycles, we're seizing them, because they're unregistered vehicles that require registration, and we're educating. But that's about the best tools we have at the moment.
Right. Filling back.
Thanks. Thank you, Chief. And Councilman Morgan, I think you bring up an excellent point, and I know I've witnessed the same thing with the e-bikes and the different modes of travel. But I do think that we do have an answer. It's just not right now in the sense of how our plan works. With our mobility plan, we need to continue to make sure that we have, where we can, that motorized path with that non-motorized path. And I've seen it in many cities. I'm sure everyone that's gotten to go to different cities has traveled and seen the areas that have like a bike path or scooter, and they have like a little scooter sign on the thermoplast or a walking pedestrian. And where I've seen it and I've experienced it, I haven't really seen, at least I haven't experienced an issue. People tend to follow those directions. If it's a pedestrian path, they're on the pedestrian path. If it's a bicycle path, they're on that path. If they're on the motor path, they're on that path. Is it 100%? Probably not. But having the availability of the pathway and where people can go is critical. And so my thought is if it's not happening now, I think it'd be amazing, Chief, as we continue to see these challenges, and you're so good with finding the hot spots. Are there hot spots where we see more of this? And is it an opportunity for Public Works to potentially maybe put a higher prioritization on creating those pathways? Or is there temporary pathways that we can create while we're waiting for the full build-out of the road, since we're trying to do a complete street? There may not be solutions for all areas, because some areas don't have appropriate right-of-way, but, we can at least start to attack it if it may not be, like I'm thinking of I've been to certain areas where they've put asphalt down next to the sidewalk temporarily until they do their complete street and they have their motorized pathway there. Is there something we can do like that, Cole, as we start to have more and more of these challenges?
We can definitely look into that. One thing that we have to consider, though, is the cost, because doing some of these temporary pathways cost approximately half to 60% of what it would cost to do the permanent. So it become a funding constraint there. We can definitely look at it, and I've even seen some other newer materials that I'm curious how ADA is going to be looking at them, as far as recycled tires that they're using for pathways and whatnot. And they come together like Lego blocks is what the manufacturer is selling. I'm not sold on them yet, but got to do some research and see if that is a viable option to look into. And then one thing we'd also have to look at for all these different types of pathways, as you mentioned with the right-of-ways, is we like the complete streets and lush landscaping and street trees. So if we're going to try and start adding more pathways, some of that might have to be sacrificed for these pathways. But I'm open for all these discussions and willing to figure out what path forward we want to go together with it.
And that's why I think the data is important, because then we can say, we can narrow it down and pick those sacrifices where we need to. And the other thing that I've seen, and I think in West Palm, I've noticed it a lot too, is they're starting to, instead of going next to the sidewalk, they are using the roads, but they're sequestering a section of roadway, whether it's chicanes or bollards, where it's protected pathway on the road, and kind of shifting the lanes a little bit. But
yeah, to that point, it's in some of the bigger cities and, really out west where you see like dedicated lanes for trolleys and buses. They're essentially converting that and using smaller lanes for, golf carts, or I should say low-speed vehicles and electric bikes.
because I think this stuff is here to stay, and I think as much as we want to try to enforce, it's going to be used. The question is, to Councilman Morgan's point, the safety of it. And I feel like the goal too is to get people off the road. Traffic is so high, and people complain about traffic. We can anticipate two things: people utilizing that form of mobility to be able to avoid traffic, and then also people that may not have the money to have a car or insurance to be able to get to work, to need to utilize that type of traffic. And so I think it's only going to increase as the city grows, and we just need to, I think we need to provide the pathways and try to expedite those, Mr. City Manager, whenever possible, where they make sense.
And Vice Mayor, you bring up a great point, because these alternate modes of transportation, they're going to keep growing, in my opinion. But it also comes at a detriment to the roadways, because what helps pay for the maintenance? Gas tax.
Correct, right.
These alternate modes, they're not paying into that, and we're going to have to figure out that hurdle as well, just like with the electric vehicles.
Yeah, that's why data is so important too, right? Because as that becomes more of a funding issue mechanism, and we begin to advocate in Tallahassee to modify how they're doing their gas tax, or how they're figuring out maintenance for cities, having that data is really important too, to say we have X amount of thousands of people that utilize this form of transportation.
So I'll just add, I really think the crux of the problem is that our laws haven't caught up to these electric vehicles yet.
True.
Okay?
State law.
Yes. I do not think that children should be operating motorized vehicles on or around our roadways. I don't
Agreed.
think it's safe. I don't think they have the maturity. I don't think they have the experience and training. Unfortunately, lawfully, they can currently. The biggest area that we get complaints about the e-bikes right now is St. Lucie West, Country Club Estates, Cascades, Magnolia Lakes, because right up Cashmere, you have all the schools, right? So they cut through these gated neighborhoods in packs going to schools. And it really upsets, especially in the elderly communities, because it interferes with the golf cart traffic. I mean, it's bizarre, but it's true. And when they do it, they're immature and they are inconsiderate. And they
They're
like to
kids.
take shortcuts, and, you know, they're kids. So if they can cut between two houses and bypass a street, that's what they're going to do. They take the, you know, shortest distance between where they are and where they're going. You know, so it really comes down to a maturity thing. And some people say, oh, well, they're just kids. Weren't you a kid once? Yes. But I didn't have motorized vehicles like this either, and the amount of them. You know, so I really think that it's putting these vehicles in the hands of children who really shouldn't be operating these things at this point is the biggest problem. And I think eventually that's the realization that the state has to come to and deal with.
Thank you. Staff?
So, it's interesting. I serve on the board for Safe Kids of St. Lucie County. So I'm going to bring this up as a topic because they always do bike safety and helmet safety. I'm wondering if we could not partner up with the school district, because I've gone by schools and I see the e-bikes and their bike racks. And that's where you get them.
I agree.
So,
I'm thinking the same thing. Is there an opportunity to work with the school board there?
yeah, thank you.
Great. Any other
I think
comments?
Colt was going to say something else.
Oh, go ahead.
Councilwoman Moran, I appreciate you mentioning the bike safety and bike helmets. One initiative that our department has done is they've worked with DOT, and they've actually gotten at least Miss Emily Siders certified to fit bike helmets. And so at the Citizens Summit, we're able to do that. We've also received some interest from other departments to do that and start hosting certifications. And if Ms. Sider is able to do another certification training, then she will start being able to train other city staff to be able to do these bike fitting helmets and start spreading that safety awareness.
That's awesome. And of course, Rhonda heads up that with Safe Kids. And hopefully, if the safety village ever gets built in my lifetime, that is going to be a main area of that. But I know that she does that too. But thank you.
Great. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
So I know we have some people from other organizations here to present. So Kevin, we're going to skip utilities for right now and go to Village Green Drive. We'll come back to you. We're not going to forget you. We're just going to come back. So. Oh, there's Flash.
Good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm actually really excited to be here right now with our partners from Culpeper and Turpinning, the design team for the Village Green Drive Corridor revitalization. We're going to get into it after this first little part of the presentation, some of the history and how we've gotten here. But I think this is one of those times where you can celebrate a great win and see some really big things in action. What we have for you to start off with is a rendering of where we are at with the design for the Village Green Drive corridor as it relates to the revitalization and connects to the Walton and One. So without further ado, get ready.
All right, we're ready.
Well, if you just give us some time here, we'll run you through some information, and then if you have some questions and want to discuss along the way, we'd be happy to.
Sounds great.
And with that, Steph Mathis with CNT, here to run you through it.
And
great,
if I may hop in here real quick? Vice Mayor, we were
I'm
talking
like,
about protected bike lanes.
bike paths. I saw them. I was like, there you go. I mean, wow. I mean, what a plan. I can't wait to hear more.
Good morning, Steph. Great to have you here.
Good morning. Thank you so much. By way of introduction, Steph Mathis with Culpeper Interpreting. I'm here with my design team. And first of all, we want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to partner with the city on the design of this project. What you saw prior to my presentation here really was hopefully to give you some context on where we are with the design process. And it may be able to have you come up with some comments or questions as I go through my presentation. What I'll be presenting now is where we are in the design process. We'll also have a couple of locations where we would solicit some discussion from the council on some of the design parameters. And with that, let's get into it. So why does Village Green Drive matter? The St. Lucie County TPO in 2018 ranked the Village Green Drive as the #1 priority out of 137 corridors to become a complete street project. It's a key connection for residents, businesses, medical, and your new entertainment district. It serves both the original and revised CRA, as well as the new Walton in One Vision. It improves safety and mobility for all users with an emphasis on pedestrian and bicycle traffic. It supports economic development and quality of life through the design which actually decreases social, economic, and environmental impacts. A little bit of project history. The city commissioned the master plan design in mid-2020, which of course coincided with COVID. A lot of work was done during that COVID period, which included canvassing days, business outreaches, walking audits, documenting the conditions. You had 2 public informational meetings. You had a stakeholder meeting. You had a public survey with 318 responses, which helped shape and define the actual master plan document. It culminated in the Citizen Summit Public Workshop, which finally culminated in the master plan being approved by both the CRA and this council in July of 2021. The master plan document is the guiding document for the design that we're working on. A little bit of history of where we are now. We started with the design phase in June of 2025. We made our 30% design submittal on November 25th. It came right after our first public informational meeting where we had over 50 people come out and give comments and listen to the presentations. We do ongoing coordination with city staff as well as the high-performance public spaces on a monthly basis. We are in the process of doing the 60% design, which right now is a great time to solicit any comments you may have. Those design plans are due early May. Upcoming, the 90% designs will be due in September. Issue for construction package in late October. This all falls within the grant funding requirements and designs where permitting needs to be completed by December 31st, 2026. Let's talk about funding a little bit. The city procured a raised fund grant in August of 2024 to the tune of $2 million to do the design of this. RAISE stands for Rebuild America's Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity. The RAISE grant has very certain specific requirements that you need to do to implement within your design. And those include complete streets, safety, and multimodal criteria. Our 30% design plan satisfied every issue at that grant intent. What that did was position the project to compete strongly for future construction grants, which I understand the city is in the process right now of putting together. City investments also leverage those and protect those federal dollars.
Stephen, real quick, I just want to pause here. And
Yes,
I think,
please.
Was it Marlon, the one that helped do the walking?
Marlon was the author of the master plan.
Yeah, so kudos to them because this federal grant is next to impossible to get for planning purposes. It is usually only a construction-built grant. We were told early on when Kate and I were meeting with people on the federal side, you're probably going to get construction, you're going to have to pay for the planning. Marlon and CNT, I know you all work together. You provided us a plan that when we presented it to the federal side, we were able to obtain this grant, which is a huge lift. So thank you so much.
Mayor and Vice Mayor, if I may, just thank you for that, because I think that it has been it's a very challenging feat to be able to obtain this first federal grant, which now, and I'm very grateful to the design team and the timing of the most recent build-out announcement, because we actually can now pursue federal construction funds to the tune of about $24 million. That really, having that initial grant really allows us to kind of clear a path to construction dollars. So the work of the team really is leading us to really benefit the city and, of course, reduce the burden on the general fund as well in terms of funding this project.
And I can't thank Congressman Mastoffice enough, too, because their whole team has been behind it as well.
So what were the impacts that allowed that grant fund to be incorporated and received by the city? You have gaps in sidewalks, you have bike facilities that go nowhere, you have unsafe crossings, you have crash history and speed concerns. There were over 160 total crashes recorded in this corridor in the last 5 years. 93.7% of the vehicles exceeded the 30-mile-per-hour in a speed study that was conducted. You have environmental constraints that the Hog Pen Slough discharge into an impaired water body in the North Fork St. Lucie River. We have new water quality rules that have to be met, and we also have transit stop that lack in amenities or ADA compliance. All those things were contributors to getting that grant. So the project breaks down into 3 distinct segments. The first segment, the Northern Gateway, I consider the industrial section, runs from US 1 to Camino. And you saw that, you saw all this on the video. The second segment, which is called the Trails Connection, really is your transitional zone between your industrial and your entertainment corridor. The third segment runs from Walton to Tiffany, and that really is your recreation entertainment corridor at Walton and 1. Look at it a little more closely. The Northern Gateway really is the most constrained segment you have. You have a limited right-of-way to do work in. We have to find ways to get the gateway at US 1 to tie into Crosstown. We have to provide safer access to the industrial and commercial parcels. We're doing median treatments and an access management plan that is consistent with the master plan. We'll look for opportunities for branding, signage, and improved aesthetics, and we're going to introduce bioswale exfiltration systems, which we're going to talk about a little later. Segment 2, the Trails Connection, which I think is kind of a transition zone. We're going to provide protection and enhancement of the Hog Pen Slough and those drainage corridors. We'll create a green shaded connection between neighborhoods. We're going to implement a roundabout or some other enhanced intersection at Camino del Entrada for the Spanish Lakes residents. And once again, we're going to provide a bioswale in the median. Segment 3, the recreational way. This is by far the area that has the most opportunity for improvements outside of the road right-of-way itself. We'll be implementing a linear park and a trail experience around the Walton and 1 and the lake on the east side. We'll be able to provide safer access to the event center and the Woodstock Trail. We'll increase the road capacity to a 4-lane roadway in connection with the expansion that Walton and 1 is seeing. We're going to provide some flexible event space. We're going to provide improved access and circulation to the ACA hospital entrance, as well as the medical offices surrounding it, and again, a bioswale. So here's a couple of slides that really are kind of showing what these sections will look like when it's done. Segment 1 with the constrained right-of-way, you see in the upper left-hand corner, we're going to need to use a combined multi-use pathway where the bikes and the pedestrians have to share the area. It's going to be 12 foot wide, but we don't have enough room to separate them. The bus stop that you see below will have to have on-street stopping for the buses, as opposed to the bays that we can implement in the other sections. We will be able to provide enhanced, safe, raised crosswalks and accesses to the Hog Pen Boardwalk, and we're going to provide as much shading as we can for those pathways. The second segment, as you can see in the upper left, we now can introduce an actual separated bike lane that separates bike from pedestrian and roadway traffic. We have the opportunity for public art, because we have much more right-of-way, specifically in the roundabout for the entrance to Spanish Lakes. we will provide a much more enhanced shaded pathway for the pedestrians to be able to walk to and from places. And in the lower right-hand corner, you can see a little exhibit of what a bioswale median will probably look like. Segment 3, which is the industrial way, you can see in the upper left-hand corner, we have the ability to provide an event space and an area as well as an esplanade adjacent to the lake. The big difference in this area is the amount of space and area that we have to use to provide those extra enhanced features. So we talked about a bioswale. So what is a bioswale? It's a landscape stormwater treatment area within the roadway median. How does it work? Roadway runoff enters the curb inlets. Water is routed to the bioswale in the median. It rises through the soil and plants, where underground exfiltration systems allow infiltration as well as root uptake by the plant material. Why are we using it? It helps us meet the new South Florida nutrient removal requirements that came into effect at the end of the year, which reduces nitrogen and phosphorus before discharge to Hog Pen Slough and the North Fork. Very low maintenance, no fertilizer, limited mowing, and native low maintenance plants are used. The benefits, it improves water quality naturally. It uses existing median space without additional right-of-way needs to provide that. It looks like landscaping, but it functions like infrastructure. And once again, stop me anytime you have a question. So marrying the roadway to quality of life is the landscape and streetscape that's going to be provided with the project. We are at a 60% design right now, so we're in the process of just scratching the surface in how that's going to work. But we do know that there's going to be varying landscaping intensity within each corridor. Segment 1 will have low intensity with emphasis on shade, user comfort, and buffering. Segment 2 will be a more medium intensity, focusing on protecting the multi-use pathways, separating the linear park characteristics, public art, elevated connections, and stormwater improvements. Segment 3, a more high intensity, featuring the multi-use pathways, linear parks, the flexible event space, connections to Walton 1, and lake edge activation. Streetscape elements will integrate with landscaping, including benches, public art, waste, and pedestrian amenities. Landscape buffers will be designed to enhance the user experience, which will separate active and vehicular spaces. Solar-powered lighting will be coordinated with streetscape landscape features for safety and sustainability. If you remember back, the RAISE grant is sustainability and equity. These are the measures that we're doing to meet those grant requirements. So here's the first opportunity for council discussion. It really centers around the entrance to Spanish Lakes. The master plan called for a roundabout entrance. What you see here is consistent with the master plan. It allows for steady flow of traffic at intersections. It increases traffic calming, and it creates public art and gateway opportunities. An option to explore and to consider is a peanut, which is under evaluation to see if it's beneficial. But the benefits we see, it allows for steady flow of traffic at the intersection. It improves the truck access to the northern industrial area, as you can see in this slide. It increases traffic calming. You have 2 traffic calming elements instead of 1, and it creates 2 public art gateway opportunities. The considerations that you got to think about is it may be confusing to some residents because there's not one anywhere here, in the southeast of Florida, and it needs clear signing and education. So I'm going to pause here for a minute to see if I have any input or comments or discussion from the council on a preference on which way you think would be better.
So I have a question between the first one and the second one, where you say improves truck access to North Industrial Area. So to me, that seems like it would be important. And so what is the issue with the first option? How much of a detriment does it cause truck traffic? Because if we're talking about mobility, we want to make sure that all vehicles have ease of travel. So that's important.
If you take a look at the screen, I went back to the first slide. Because of the way and the distance that industrial roadway is in close proximity to the entrance, we have to median. So we can't have a left turn out of that side street. We can go right in, right out, but it forces any vehicle that comes out of that industrial section to go south
I see that.
Whereas, oh, that's a pointer? I mean,
Oh, look at that.
right there. So we have to create a median there. If we go with the peanut, it gives those vehicles a better chance of getting in and out at the industrial, roadway. As you can see, we have median opening here to get a left in, and then it can still circumnavigate and go out to Crosstown.
So I'm always about do it right the first time.
I agree with
Because
that.
otherwise, we can have a scenario where we say we shoulda, woulda, coulda, but we didn't. So I say do it right the first time, but I have to hear from everyone else.
At the bottom part of that peanut, where you're talking about the trucks coming in and out of there, is that where all the movers companies at? And if it isn't, what is the amount of truck traffic that comes in?
They're actually south of there. The amount of truck traffic at that intersection right now is probably 25% of the traffic that enters and exits the entire industrial area.
Okay.
So if we don't do this, then the vehicles coming in from the south will need to go a completely different
No,
route to get
you
into
answered my
that
question when
entrance.
you give me the percentage. That tells me that it is needed, so thank you.
Steph?
I totally agree with I don't like the word peanut roundabout option. Oval.
There you go.
But I know that, and I don't know how many are familiar with the oval roundabout that is located in Port Salerno on Southeast Dixie and St. Lucie Boulevard, is very, very well done, I would have to say. And I see a lot of heads shaking of people that do live down there or have been down there. And it would, I think, would look better than this. But just a thought because I had seen oval somewhere, and I totally agree with it. But that one's one you may want to look at and kind of follow there.
Yeah, the biggest difference between that and this peanut option is the peanut option introduces an additional level of traffic calming by making a vehicle actually drive around a couple of different, rather than very straight around what happens down in Port Salerno. It slows traffic down even more. And for all the turning movements that we have there, that's probably a better thing than having a straight oval.
I agree with what you said. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. We should have done that, and I agree, especially with the truck traffic. I would go for that one.
And as revitalization continues, we may have more businesses going in, so. Comments?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards your, the peanut option, if that's what your evaluation ultimately decides is the recommendation. You mentioned there are none in Southeast Florida. Is there any reason why?
No, it's just, it's fairly new. There is one that's been implemented in Lakeland. Where is it? Found it. So it's in the southwest coast. There is one that's been implemented, and in the very beginning, from what I read about it, it was difficult, but as people understand how to navigate it, it became more and more accepted.
Where are they most common?
They're fairly new.
Fairly new altogether?
They're fairly
okay.
new.
Fairly new all over, or fairly?
Fairly new all over.
Okay.
Well, in Europe, they do it, but fairly new in the United States.
Well, there's your answer right there, because they have some great roadway systems in Europe as compared to what we have here, so.
If you look at the amount of roundabouts and these kind of roundabouts in Europe, it far exceeds what we have here in the United States.
Yeah, I'm good with number two. I just have a question. So I think when we're using truck traffic, the only concern is that sometimes these roundabouts, how is it going to be built to ensure that the truck isn't riding on the roundabout?
So what you have on the roundabouts is actually the inside, the gray area that you see in the picture. That's actually an area that the truck wheels can go up on. It's designed to be able to do that, so that the larger trucks can actually go around and circumnavigate it and not disturb the traffic in the other lane.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that that gray area is wide enough. That way, we're not going on the, because then you're going to have your design, and then you're going to have landscaping. I'm good with that. The oval at Floresta that was just built was, confusing. I live in that area, was confusing to residents at first. But once they got used to it, they were fine. I think this one, though, like when we talk about signage, even if it's at first, so people get used to it, we're going to need a lot of signage just because of the amount of traffic. I mean, Floresta has a lot of traffic, but Village Green has a tremendous amount of traffic, daily traffic. But I do like the design better, and I'm glad that Spanish Lakes, I'm sure you work with their community, decided instead of a light, because I know they pushed very long for a light or something, they went ahead and accepted the roundabout. Because I think that's going to really help them get in and out, and I know they've been having concerns with safety issues getting in and out of their community.
We will be holding another public forum with Spanish Lake specifically to go over the design after we have it nailed down, to make sure they understand and to help teach them how to navigate the roundabout or the peanut.
Okay. All right, you have your answer on that.
All right, so the next one is the type of on-street parking that we'd like to implement. Parallel parking is the tried and true method that we know. It's a 5-step process. The pros are it's familiar, it's proven, people know how to do it. It has a simpler understanding pattern on how to get into it. It has simpler signage. A couple of the cons are it has fewer spaces because when you have a linear area and you're taking up 20 feet instead of 10, you have less spaces you can do. It is harder for some users because, some people have to take, instead of 5, 7, 8, or 9 turns to get into it. It also increases the door hazard zone when you open up your doors. Sometimes it may be into a travel lane, sometimes it may be into a sidewalk. So there is a option that is starting to gain traction throughout the country. Is called reverse angle parking. It is a 3-step process versus a 5-step process. The pros are you get more spaces because you're on a 45-degree angle rather than 90 degrees. You have better exit visibility. It reduces your door zone hazard, and it's safer for loading or unloading the trunk of the vehicle. Cons are it is less familiar. It does need some pretty strong signage, and the backring movement that you see going on right now, it does require some care to make sure you stay within your space. It is trending. Gainesville, Pensacola, Sarasota, and Tallahassee all have implemented this. So that's my next question.
I've seen it in Fort Myers, too.
I'll add that to my list.
Comments? I'm good with the reverse angle.
I'm good on the reverse angle.
Good? Everyone good with that?
Yep.
I just have one question regarding that one, and I'm for the reverse angle. Again, signage, and let's stay ahead. A lot of vehicles, the pickup trucks, SUVs, they have the big hitches on them, they're backing in. I see in the photo, and maybe it's not, but you're right there at the sidewalk. You don't know how many times I have knocked my shin, but I'm thinking, and with all the e-bikes and the kids, how can something like that be prevented or helped, or can we make a buffer?
No, the way you prevent that is you provide a wider sidewalk behind the vehicle. You anticipate the fact that it's going to back up and that you're going to have some overhang, and we do have wider sidewalks within this corridor. So you give people the opportunity to be on the outside of the sidewalk rather than being scrunched up very close to the vehicle.
Great. Okay. Next.
Lastly, I want to update you on some changes that we've made that are not 100% consistent with your master plan. They really are in segment 3, and they revolve around the expansion that you're going to have in Walton and 1. So we've replaced the master plan's suggested on-street parking with an actual 4-lane design. We've increased the turn lane queue lengths into Walton and 1. We've made sure the intersection is signal capable for future signalization. We have bus stops at the entrance to support the events. The complete street access goes into and includes Walton and 1. We have been coordinating this with your HPPS as well as the police department on event traffic and how that will be handled at Walton and 1. And we maintain a flexible event space on the east side. So that's really just an update for you. And are you in agreement with those changes that we've made?
I am, thank you.
Good, yep,
Yes.
awesome.
So I'm open to any other questions you may have.
Go ahead, Steph.
I'm making up for lost time since I was late here today. The sidewalk. On the first section.
Yep.
And I'm only looking at pictures, and I don't know, I see different pictures of the sidewalk. I see one that it's right there up against the curb and the road.
Yep.
I see another one that it has a little bit of buffer, so I don't know exactly. The reason I bring it up is because of episode that happened recently in Palm Beach with, everybody knows, I'm sure they've seen it all over the news, and I don't like the sidewalks right there against traffic. And we know even though the speed limit may be 30, 35, it feels like it's whizzing by. There's no possible way we could have some type of a,
So here's, Ms. Morgan, Councilwoman Morgan, this is what we're doing. This picture really doesn't depict what the final product's going to be. We are right now strongly considering a green paved concrete adjacent to the roadway, which will be designated for the bike traffic. So it does show it in the not in this one, but in the video. But we are looking at the ramifications behind providing a 4-foot wide green sidewalk, and then the rest of the 8 feet being regular colored concrete, and designated it for the bike traffic so that they have a separation for the pedestrians from the travelway.
but is it going to be up on the curb?
It is. It's going to be
Okay,
adjacent to the curb.
That's where the issue was down there, is that they came off the curb, fell down, and got run over.
Pedestrians.
Bicyclists.
Bicyclists. All right, so the other thing we're implementing with this is that was probably a F curb scenario where you have the 6-inch raised curve, 5-face up against it. We are implementing in this project an E curb, which actually has a slope face that comes down to it, which is easier for a bicycle to go down or up.
Yeah, I just would ask for some type of a small barrier, grass, something to where
The grass,
you're
and
off of
I'm just throwing out the negatives behind that. That grass strip is extremely hard to maintain. It's going to take away from the multi-use path. We have a limit of 100 foot of right-of-way, and there's only so much we can squeeze in there. So the multi-use path, really from a operational standpoint, appears to be the best option for only this segment of the corridor, which is right up against the commercial and industrial uses.
We're in process, right? So. Anything else?
I give. I made my peace.
I had a question about the recreational way. Can you pull the picture up, please? Is there going to be any kind of power over there for people to, when they rent booth space, to be able to plug in? Otherwise, they're going to have to put generators out there. And additionally, go ahead.
No, yes, we will, our electrical engineer will provide power to certain areas, because it makes total sense that if you're going to have somewhere where you can put the tents up and have that we should have power located throughout.
Okay. And then additionally, I see down here along the lake or retention pond or whatever, you have some trees depicted there. are we going to do anything with that shoreline there, making it any kind of living shoreline or anything to that nature?
So we're still working through that. We will provide a retaining wall, and where that retaining wall goes may allow us to put a living shoreline at the bottom of it. The retaining wall is there so that we can have an esplanade effect, a 20-foot wide pathway along that waterway. And that is all being part of this design.
Okay. And I appreciate the bioswale and that's very forward thinking. I liked when I saw that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree with that. I think it's great. Further comments?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So the 97, you stated that 93.7% exceeded the speed of 30 miles an hour. So let's talk about speed. Obviously, we're coming off a crosstown most of the time, heading into the Village Green corridor. Do you think that these traffic improvements are going to help the speed of the drivers and get them down that speed? And I think, too, the other question was, I thought there was like, and Chief, you'll know more than me on this, is I thought there was a law that if people are traveling faster by a certain percentage, that we have to acknowledge that in the speed, and essentially the speed is too low. Do you know, I can't remember what that was, like I think it was, that's why sometimes we look at the speed limits and we do testing to see how fast people are going, but if 93.7% exceed 30 miles an hour, is the speed too low right now?
That's the 85th percentile, I think you're
Correct.
speaking to, correct? Yeah. So what 85% of the people are traveling, technically you want to enforce within that range.
Yeah. So I don't know what it's exceeded to. I don't know if you have those numbers, but.
That actually came out of the master plan report. We are implementing traffic calming measures throughout that entire with the raised mid-block crosswalks, with different types of median treatments and such. So we recognize that there is an issue with this, and as part of the design, we are trying to implement speed reduction enhancements.
Good, yeah, because I think that's going to be key if we want to keep that speed where it's at. Then also, I'm excited again with the bioswale and the improvements to the hog pen slough, especially because, for those that may not know, this water quality project is one of the worst areas that we have for nitrogen and phosphorus challenges. So those improvements are going to really help the water quality. I can't wait to see what the results are after those improvements are made and what we're looking at. Not a question that I need to answer today, Colt, but I would love to know what are the future plans, because we've done a lot of, it may be a utility question actually, we've done a lot of improvements, septic to sewer conversions, and we've picked hot spots for water quality. And I don't think we've tested them, but I know there was always this goal to retest to see the improvements and comparisons from where we started. Do we know if we're going to retest at any point to see what the improvements have been made?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor. To answer that question, yes, we have been talking and working with Public Works. The original testing was done in collaboration with partners at Harbor Branch, and we did request, it was funded, the original testing method. We did ask, current fiscal year, unfortunately, was something that we didn't get support on just yet, but there is interest to retest. I will say, specific to this area, this is one of the hotspots, as you recall too, through the American Recovery Plan Act funding, and eventually through the commercials, we did try to focus on these remaining commercial property owners that are on septic in that area. While we did have interest by one, unfortunately, we were unable to eventually get them converted with the program we were offering there. Staff is kind of discussing how we get these remaining businesses off specific to that area. But so 2 points. One, yes, we do have interest to retest to see the progress we're making, and also on the updates on the presentation, we'll see where we're making on the conversions. But and then secondly, how do we get these remaining businesses converted?
Yeah, and that's going to be part of my next point. But I agree, Kevin. I think that we do need to try to do that when we think that we have a good delta of change. That way, as we continue to apply for water quality projects, we can really use that data to show the difference between when we've done something and not. And I think Veterans was one of those locations too, so they're going to have some improvements as well.
Right, one of the things that we are working on too is residential conversions is one historically we've done. The commercials around we haven't got into, but we're actually working on a project internally right now on a commercial. And so the thought is, could that be something different we attempt? Because the uphill battle on the conversion has been the cost, both the design and these are, people are running businesses. This isn't what they do day in and day out. So trying to look at alternative methods on how we can maybe get them over the finish line, whether that be utilities helping and providing an option versus having them hire a consultant and such to carry it out.
Thanks. And then Shannon, you brought up yesterday when we were talking about the expansion into Martin County, that road, and you said something, that I feel also applies here, which is, we have an opportunity, and it's a very limited opportunity to make sure that it gets done right, and if not, someone else is going to do it, right?
Yep.
And when I look at the Village Green corridor, and then more importantly, I look at the industrial businesses surrounding it, and then knowing what I know the level of private investment that's going to incur in Walton and One, and then the investment by the infrastructure, it is going to make Village Green extremely attractive for people that are interested in whether it's continuing the industrial portion, doing something different. It's going to make it a very appealing location, especially because of its age, for individuals to want to come in and begin to potentially acquire. So I really want to make sure that we get into this master plan discussion and discuss if an overlay is needed, and really begin to think about what do we want Village Green to look like? How is it going to marry on the eastern side to Walton and One? Are we going to keep it industrial? What is that going to look like? And obviously, these are all private owners, so they have their property rights. But I cannot imagine, with my experience working with some of the individuals in this area, specifically in the Village Green corridor, that as this area gets more attractive, if they have the opportunity to take advantage of a sale, if that's something that they choose to do, I'm sure we're going to have individuals that are interested in that, and I don't want to hodgepodge it. I don't want someone to buy a section of property, then come to us and say, hey, I want to do this, and then we're kind of like changing zonings and figuring that out as we go. I really want to have that broader vision of what do we want the finished product to be for Village Green, and what's that going to look like for the east side. So I don't know where we're at. I know it's something that we're planning, that staff's been planning. When do we think we'll have a discussion of the Village Green master plan as a whole?
So to your point, and I'm really glad that you brought that up, because all through this process and talking about what the roadway is going to look like, or could look like when it gets done, all that has been going through my mind is that revitalization is not just the roads. And so we do have those issues with those older buildings out there. And if we're talking about being a true community redevelopment agency, right, we have to start focusing on what do the buildings look like? What can we do to incentivize further to get us where we need to be, those septic to sewer conversions? What incentives can we provide to partner with these private business owners to make those buildings look more attractive? It's done all over the country. And we haven't been able really to get to that place yet, because we're doing all the other things that we have to get to, right, beforehand. But now we're entering that realm where we have to start thinking about true community redevelopment. So I completely agree. We need to have those conversations, and we need to start figuring out what that's going to look like as we're focusing right now on, what's specifically happening on Walton and One. It does need to be a broader discussion, because it's about the entire agency and not just one section of that agency. So 100% we need to start really focusing on that, because you can have all this beautiful street that you want. It could be done, in however many years it's going to take to get these segments done, depending on whether it's done. We get funding from the grant, but we know that we can't rely on that. We know we still have to plan ahead and plan for how we're going to get it done if we don't get that type of funding. But if you have this, well, beautiful, but the rest of it looks like crap, for lack of a better term, what do you really have? So it is really important.
I think Jen's wanting to jump in. I don't know if you can see her, Mayor.
And I know the CRA portion's coming up. We'll have to do that right after lunch, but it's part of this discussion.
But you're absolutely right, Mayor. The revitalization portion was, the bigger part of the Village Green Corridor revitalization project is everything around it. We're at a point now, both financially and with the status of this project coming into 60%, to be able to get into those projects. So it is in our revised original CRA plan to continue that revitalization. We continue to field calls from developers who are looking beyond Walton and 1, so just like what you were talking about, kind of that spur development along the corridor. So we do anticipate a lot of that happening and coming up with some, design criteria that we'd like to see along the corridor, and enhancements not only along US Highway 1, but along PSL Boulevard too, because that's the other part of that expansion area. So you'll be seeing a lot of that coming forward to you with recommendations for moving forward and working with the Planning Department and working with Public Works. Especially interior to that area, the industrial area, there's roadway constraints, so we want to work through that with them as well.
So, sorry, Madam Mayor, how quickly can we anticipate that? Because like you said, there's interest, and again, this is my fear. Someone goes in and purchases a property, now they're applying pressure to council to have considerations of their application and their planning and their zoning change, or their, what is the plan as far as when that's coming forward?
You're 100% correct. 100% correct, and we have to be ready to plan for this because we've been hearing a long time now, we have developer interest, but we still don't know what that looks like. Not asking to know every little detail, but I don't think any of us know what that developer interest really looks like. And so in order to understand it and plan for it, we have to know what it is, number one. And number two, yes, that timeline is absolutely important because as the Stocker Stadium starts to get built, as the RFP, which by the way, I hope to God that that's finally out for the hotel at this point, because I've been asking about this for several months now. And as we continue to have this interest, things are going to go faster, and we want them to go faster because the promise to the citizens is not about a soccer stadium, it's about revitalization of the entire area. And I want to make sure that that is our focus, truly our focus. So we do need to know what some of these definitive timelines are and what this is going to look like so that we can start showing the public that we are finally implementing the master plan that was planned for back in 2020.
Well, and my fear is, and I know Jen needs to jump in, but my fear is that the city center, the Walton and 1, I'll get used to it. Walton and 1, we control all of that. So
Correct.
we move as fast as we need to move. If we need to pull back and investigate more, we can do that. Whereas the Village Green Corridor is all privately owned.
Right.
And at any point in time, they can just sell a parcel and then we're getting applications and pressure, and that's my fear. And I want to make sure that there's a desire to do an overlay of any kind, that we have that ahead in the planning process.
So we'll go ahead and get onto that piece of it, provide you a timeline of how we can move forward with that implementation. To answer your question, Mayor, the RFP did go out this week. I'll go into more detail on that in my presentation after lunch.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
That's really good news. All right, we're good? All right, well, thank you so much, Steph. Really appreciate your expertise and help with all of this. Culpeper
pleasure.
Interpreting has been really helping to build the city for many, many, many years, so we do really appreciate the partnership.
And we hope that continues. Thank you
I'm
very much.
sure it will.
Shannon, before you break really quick, Stephen, also power on the boardwalk. Thank you, Councilman Pickett. If there's no power on the boardwalk, we probably going to want to put cameras. That's typical out on the boardwalk.
We'll make sure that our electrical designer provides power to the stubs for that, because we're not doing the boardwalk plans, but we'll make sure that we have the ability for it to be picked up from there and put on the boardwalk plans
Thank you.
themselves.
And one more thing, Vice Mayor, we are also planning restroom facilities over on that side of the corridor to facilitate festivals and events. I know the power was important, but also having the necessary infrastructure in place, so that's something we're planning for too.
Perfect.
Great. All right. All right, we're going to break for lunch, and we're going to come back with the CRA right after.